Chapter 725. Comprehension. Tianyang sat cross-legged on the ground. Images of Shuntian Wuzuan practicing the 10,000 swords to origin kept flashing through his eyes. This was definitely a great opportunity for him. Shuntian Wuzuan was an expert of the Wuzun realm. His master definitely couldn't be weaker than Wuzun. Perhaps he had already reached the legendary Saint realm, which was above the Wuzun realm. How could a martial technique of the Saint realm be weak? According to Shuntian Wuzuan, the 10,000 swords to origin was a martial technique of the Saint martial realm. Saint martial realm was naturally a martial technique of the Saint realm. If Tianyang could successfully practice such a move, it would definitely be of great help. This 10,000 swords to origin is indeed extremely powerful. Although I can only practice the first move at most now, it far surpasses my celestial sword technique. As for the second and third moves, although I've memorized them, there's no way for me to practice them. At the very least, I'll have to step into the heavenly ascension realm to be able to practice them. Tianyang muttered to himself as he continued to comprehend Shuntian Wuzuan's sword moves. The images of Wuzun realm practitioners practicing were definitely treasures among treasures in Tianshao Great World, where most of the practitioners were at the peak of the heavenly ascension realm. However, only Tianyang could comprehend these images. All Heaven Sword and I are at most a little familiar. His spiritual intelligence hasn't reached the level where he can distinguish between the unfamiliar and the familiar. However, he released the pressure of the Saint weapon in such a hurry to attract experts. It can be seen that Shuntian Wuzuan's situation is definitely not as simple as All Heaven Sword said. Tianyang muttered to himself as he comprehended. In the previous battle, Shuntian Wuzuan's opponent, the Great Lord of Heaven, had terrifying strength. Even Shuntian Wuzuan, who was almost at the peak of Wuzun, was defeated by the Great Lord of Heaven. He was captured and even lost his weapon. Even if Tianyang had broken through to Wuzun's realm, he probably still wouldn't be able to fight him. By then, the Great Lord of Heaven would have stepped into the Saint realm. How could it be easy to rescue Shuntian Wuzuan from his hands before Shuntian Wuzuan died? Tianyang had comprehended these scenes, which was equivalent to him bearing this karma. If he didn't save them, his own mental demons could kill him. For a moment, Tianyang felt a heavy weight in his heart. However, these are all things for the future. According to the All Heaven Sword, Shuntian Wuzuan can last for at least 1,000 years. 1,000 years is enough for me to break through to the next realm. Tianyang chuckled. He temporarily cast aside his worries and began to comprehend with all his might. The All Heaven Sword also fluctuated slightly. The divine weapon's aura also retracted. It seemed that it had recognized Tianyang as its savior. Cultivation knew no time. Tianyang didn't know how long he had been comprehending. He only knew that he had woken up because his brain couldn't accept any more profound mysteries. Phew! Tianyang slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a long breath of turbid air. He was seeing stars. He couldn't even walk. Comprehending these detailed cultivation scenes, which could be paused and enlarged at any time, was of great help to his cultivation. Tianyang's head was filled with the cultivation mysteries, the moves and skills of the 10,000 swords in origin, as well as some of Shuntian Wuzuan's cultivation comprehensions. It could be said that all of Shuntian Wuzuan's cultivation memories about the reaching heaven state and the Wuzun state had been accepted by Tianyang without any side effects. Emperor Tianyang's rebirth was already abnormal enough. Now, he had accepted a lot of Wuzun's memories. Tianyang's brain was now a big treasure. I've comprehended all that I can comprehend. I've also memorized all that I can't comprehend. I'm afraid that before I become a top Wuzun like Shuntian Wuzuan, I won't have to be confused about the direction of my cultivation. Tianyang stood up shakily, using his true essence to cleanse his body. While he was at it, he also shaved off his beard, immediately feeling refreshed. Now, he didn't lack cultivation comprehension. The only thing he lacked was actual combat. He could make use of combat to transform his comprehension into something that belonged to him. From there, his combat strength would improve by leaps and bounds. How much time has passed in the All-Heaven Sword? Tianyang asked. He was really afraid that he wouldn't know how much time had passed in his cultivation. If a few years had passed, he would be finished. The space inside the All-Heaven Sword is separated from the space outside. The space-time system isn't completely the same. You've been cultivating inside for half a year, but only a month has passed in the outside world. A line of words appeared in front of Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang immediately let out a sigh of relief. If that was the case, then it was fine. A month's time wasn't unacceptable. If that's the case, then it's much better. Right now, I need a big battle to test the comprehension I've gained in this half a year. Tianyang smiled faintly. The aura of a peak 7th level sea of Soul Realm was released from his body. At this moment, he had comprehended so much of Wu Zun's cultivation experience. Although it didn't involve a breakthrough in cultivation, most of it was related to Sword Dao. However, just the amount of spiritual qi he had absorbed during the time of comprehension was enough for Tianyang to break through. In addition, although Tianyang's comprehension was small, it was only a small part of it. However, that was only in comparison to the overall situation. For the spiritual ocean realm, it was already enough. If it weren't for the lack of spiritual qi, the current Tianyang could directly soar to the reaching heaven realm. With a wave of his hand, true essence gushed out. A spatial crack that led to the outside world appeared in front of Tianyang. Tianyang turned his head and glanced at the pitch-black space inside the sword. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you." Then, he walked out of the sword space. "Young master, you're finally out." Tianyang had just walked out of the sword space when he heard an anxious roar. He turned his head and immediately saw Tai Wuji's rough and frightening face. Also, behind Tai Wuji, there was an even more horrifying white bone. Sanguinati. Could it be that something happened in Sword Star City again? Tianyang frowned and said, "It shouldn't be." Sanguinati was still here. It was impossible for anything to happen in Sword Star City. In this world, the number of people who could defeat Sanguinati could be counted on one hand. Those people usually wouldn't attack Sword Star City. "No." Sanguinati shook his head. "It's just that you've been gone for a month. This city lord is very worried, so he came over," Sanguinati said. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned for a moment before he smiled. Looking at the anxious and worried Tai Wuji, Tianyang smiled and extended his hand to help Tai Wuji up. "It's fine. Aren't I fine?" Tianyang smiled and looked at the horizon. "I have something to do now. If you have nothing else, you can leave first." Hearing this, Tai Wuji was stunned, but he still nodded. "Yes." At this moment, the soul fire in Sanguinati's eyes moved. "Sir, that's right." Tianyang nodded. Then, he used the Void Step secret technique and soared into the sky. It's time to kill that Demon King. Chapter 726. In a vast wasteland, Tianyang stepped into the air and stood in the void, looking down indifferently. The Great Void Arcane Realm will only open again in a few years. TSK. It's been a few years since I last came here. Tianyang looked at the desolate land in front of him and chuckled. The last time he was here was almost 2 years ago. He had just walked out of the Great Void Arcane Realm and fought with a group of experts. At that time, he was only a half step into the Sea of Soul Realm. In front of a group of Soul King experts, he was pitifully weak. However, he was still bathed in blood and used the power of Shuntian Wuzuan to kill Venerable Ironbone. Now, he could kill countless Venerable Ironbones with a flip of his hand. He might not even take a Heavenly Ascension Realm expert seriously. It had only been a little more than a year since then. What a big change. Tianyang sighed. Sanguinati did not speak. He was just found by Tianyang in the Earthly Emperor Small World, so he did not know much about Tianyang's past. However, Sanguinati knew a little. At that time, Tianyang only had Ling Yuhan as his companion. Now, Ling Yuhan was no longer there. How much time is left before a year passes? Tianyang suddenly asked. Hearing this, Sanguinati hurriedly replied, 9 months left. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. So it's been 3 months? Tianyang chuckled. Then, 9 months later, I hope the Nine-Tailed Fox clan will know what's good for them. Now, there's no time to lose. Let's go in immediately. Tianyang smiled. The Great Void Arcane Realm imprint in his hand released a huge xinguang that covered the wasteland. The Great Void Arcane Realm only opened once every few decades. It had been less than 5 years since the last time it opened. Even Ascension Realm experts could not open it. However, under the light released by the imprint of the Great Void Divine Palace, a huge spatial door that connected the heavens and the earth opened in the wilderness. Tianyang and the Bloodsword ruler did not hesitate too much. With a flash, they charged in. It's been a few years, but this place hasn't changed at all. In the Great Void Secret Realm, Tianyang looked at the surrounding mountain ranges, endless plains, and lush forests as he chuckled. Last time, because of the previous incarnation of the Great Void Divine Palace brand in his hand, the mysterious small sword, he had attracted the lightning strike and was in a sorry state. Now, even if those thunderstorms were 10 times or 100 times stronger, they wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from Tianyang. The legacies of the 4 great godly generals are in those directions. The Great Void Divine Palace is in the center. Tianyang muttered to himself as he turned into a streak of light and rushed over. Within the Great Void Divine Palace. Ha ha ha! Emperor Taishu, do you really think you can suppress me for so long? As long as I don't go out, you don't have to worry about me at all. But you can? The seal requires manpower. Do you still have the ability to maintain the seal? A wild and arrogant laughter came from underground. Flames began to spread out. However, before they could reach the elder, they were easily extinguished. However, the old man's expression turned ugly. This person was the one who gave Tianyang the Great Void Emperor Fist, the Divine Dragon Essence Blood, and the Great Void Sword Embryo. He was the Emperor Taishu. However, the Emperor Taishu's current state was clearly not very good. In the ancient times, even the Tianwu Sword Emperor of the ancient times did not dare to say that he could suppress me for eternity, let alone you who is weaker than him. You killed a demon king of my demon race and want to suppress an even stronger flame demon king. I have to say that you humans are even more arrogant than me. The ear-piercing laughter almost pierced the eardrums of the Taishu Emperor, causing his expression to turn even uglier. It had been a long time. This situation had been happening for a long time. Since a year ago, the Emperor Taishu could no longer maintain the seal that was too strong and allowed the Flame Demon King Inhua's soul to revive. Since then, Inhua had been using the demon race's demonic sound technique in a vain attempt to bewitch the Emperor Taishu into letting him out. Unfortunately, the effect was not very good. However, the Emperor Taishu's soul power was being consumed even faster because of this. If you ask me, you should turn this soul into a demon soul and become a demon king of my demon race. Although you're the lowest existence in the demon race, you're still a demon king. What's so good about this Tianshao great world? Is it worth the protection of an expert like you? Why don't you join the demon race and follow our demon lord to conquer and plunder all the worlds? Inhua laughed wildly. At this moment, the Emperor Taishu snorted angrily. Shut up. Billowing soul power was released, and the Taishu Divine Palace shone brightly, suppressing Inhua. However, at this moment, the terrifying flame was released once again. Old Taishu, do you really think that this weakened seal can suppress me? That voice did not disappear as the Emperor Taishu expected. Instead, it grew louder as the flame reappeared. However, compared to the arrogance from before, Inhua's voice now had a hint of gloominess and killing intent. The Emperor Taishu had been suppressing the great flame demon king Inhua since the ancient times until now, after countless years. He was a demon king of his generation. Although his status in the demon world was not very high, he was still much stronger than those small fries who were not even in the heaven-reaching realm. Yet, he had been suppressed for so long by a human who was worse than an insect in his eyes. You didn't expect this, did you? The flame spun rapidly and condensed into a human figure. It was the flame demon king Inhua. Although I can't break your seal now, you old ant, in 2 years. No, in less than 2 years. Ainhua will be able to break the seal and return to Tianshao Great World. When that happens, the entire Tianshao Great World will once again fall into the terror of the demon race. Flame Demon King Ainhua roared crazily. The Emperor Taishu's expression changed completely. Although the seal was still there, because of the Emperor Taishu's weakness, the seal was also weakened to the extreme. Ainhua could release demonic flame to take form even though he was in the seal. In other words, it was not impossible for Ainhua to break the seal. The Emperor Taishu's expression was extremely ugly. However, there was nothing he could do. Tianyang, the current Flame Demon King, is not something an ordinary 5th level sea of Soul Realm can handle. Damn it, I can't contact Tianyang again. The Emperor Taishu growled in his heart. At this moment, a scornful laugh came from the horizon. A mere Demon King wants to destroy Tianshao Great World? Even the old Demon Emperor didn't dare to say that. In the next moment, a huge spatial crack appeared above the Taishu Palace. 2 figures walked out of the spatial rift. One of them had a horrifying expression. He was only a skeleton, but he exuded an aura that even the Emperor Taishu could not help but be moved. The other was handsome, but very young, like a teenager. His aura could not be sensed at all, as if he was immortal. However, when Ainhua saw the 2 of them, a trace of doubt appeared on his face. The Emperor Taishu's expression changed. Chapter 727. Who are you? Ainhua's expression changed. His body made of demonic fire rippled as he looked at Tianyang and Sanguinati, who had suddenly appeared. Although he had not completely broken the seal, he could still sense the changes in the outside world. Putting aside the strange young man whose aura was not obvious, he looked like a mortal. This guy with only a skeleton was actually a reaching Heaven State warrior. Ainhua knew some of the rules of the Great Void Mystery Realm. It would take some time before it could open and allow outsiders to enter. However, there was still a long time before the next opening, and 2 people had already arrived. One of them was even an Ascension Realm elite. Ascension Realm. At this moment, Emperor Taishu also noticed Sanguinati's presence. He looked at Sanguinati in disbelief, his soul power fluctuating violently. To him, the heaven-reaching realm was not a particularly powerful existence. After all, he himself was a great emperor of the ancient times. However, the Ascension Realm of the ancient times was completely different from the current Ascension Realm. Tianyang, what's going on? How did you find such a powerful helper? Although he's only at the 2nd level of the Ascension Realm, it'll be too easy for him to deal with Ainhua. Emperor Taishu's heart skipped a beat. He was pleasantly surprised. At this moment, Ainhua's expression darkened. He looked at Tianyang and Lin Yun, his demonic fire rising abruptly. Pretentious be *starred. Die. Ainhua roared. Demonic chi erupted from his body. Even before he broke the seal, he already had the battle strength of an 8th level sea of Soul Realm elite. Even Emperor Taishu hadn't expected Ainhua's strength to recover so quickly. Demon Kings are trash. A sealed Demon King is even more trash. Tianyang looked indifferently at the charging Ainhua. His lips curled into a smile as he circulated his true yuan. A sharp light flashed in Tianyang's eyes. Emperor Taishu's fist. Tianyang roared as the true essence in his body surged out. The might of a heaven-tier fist technique was completely released. Tianyang released his Zhen Yuan at the peak of the 7th level of Sea of Soul Realm. A terrifying aura that could penetrate the heavens and penetrate the earth was released from his body. What? Ainhua's expression changed drastically when he saw this. This is the Great Void Imperial Fist, and he is only at the peak of the 7th level of Sea of Souls Realm? Impossible. How could a peak-level Sea of Souls Realm warrior have such power? Even the Taishu Emperor wouldn't be able to do this at this level. Ainhua's expression changed drastically as she roared furiously. However, Tianyang merely sneered upon seeing this. Nothing is impossible. Didn't the ants in your eyes also defeat countless invasions of the demon race? Break! Tianyang bellowed as his vital essence surged. A great void fist imprint that could penetrate heaven and earth suddenly materialized and charged at Inhua. Damn it! Ninefold demonic fire body. 9 heavens demonic fire seal. Inhua bellowed with an ugly expression. The black demonic fire suddenly burned. In the next moment, she formed a seal with both hands. Mysterious seals were formed one after another. Immediately after, a powerful fire seal was formed and shot toward the Great Void Emperor's fist. Break for me! Inhua roared as a monstrous demonic chi was released. However, Tianyang merely sneered when he saw this. A demon king with only a demonic fire body who hasn't even broken the seal wants to fight me. Ridiculous. Then, Tianyang activated the divine desolate sky spirit art in his body. An even more powerful true essence rushed out and poured into the Great Void Imperial Fist. The Great Void Imperial Fist seemed to have the help of the gods. Its power instantly skyrocketed and completely devoured the 9 heavens demonic fire seal. Inhua's pupils shrank when he saw this. His heart trembled as he looked at the Great Void Imperial Fist that was charging at him. His body instantly exploded. Oomph! I can't fight you, and you can't do anything to me. Inhua harumphed coldly. The demonic flames turned into a stream of fire and rushed to the bottom of the seal. Tianyang frowned slightly when he saw this. He reached out and dispelled the Great Void Emperor's fist. Inhua had already returned to the seal. Without destroying the seal, it would be very difficult to injure Inhua. The seal that the Great Void Emperor had laid down with all his might before his death was naturally extremely strong. It was only slightly weakened now. It could seal Inhua and also defend against external attacks. The seal had become Inhua's protective shield. Ha ha ha. So what if you're powerful? As long as the seal is not broken, a human bastard like you won't be able to do anything to me. When I return a few years, you'll die no matter how powerful you are. Inhua shouted crazily. The Great Void Emperor's expression darkened when he heard this. He looked at Tianyang with a hint of shame. If he had not failed to suppress Inhua, there would not have been a risk of the Demon King breaking out of the seal. Tianyang would not have been humiliated like this. However, what surprised the Great Void Emperor was that Tianyang's expression was very calm when he heard what the Great Void Emperor had said. Young Tianyang, who told you that I have to guard this stupid seal until my death? Tianyang said calmly. In the next moment, the divine wilderness heaven spirit art in his body was activated to the maximum. Heaven rank, martial soul, heavenly firmament. Martial soul talent, devouring heaven. An extremely violent devouring power exploded from Tianyang's body. Through the expansion of the Great Void Palace, it affected the entire Great Void secret realm in an instant. The power of the mountains and rivers of heaven and earth flowed into Tianyang's body. Tianyang's cultivation instantly broke through to the peak of the half-step ascension realm. What are you doing? Inhua's expression changed drastically. He looked at Tianyang in disbelief. If you break the seal, I will run out and destroy the Tianshao Great World. If you can run out, it'll be my loss. Tianyang smiled faintly. The Great Void Sword Embryo, which had been upgraded to a superior grade spiritual weapon, appeared in his hand. Essential Yuan exploded, and he struck with his sword. Sky Sword Technique, 4th Sword Firmament. Tianyang roared. In the next moment, a terrifying sword light slammed into the seal. The seal was on the verge of collapse. Tianyang did not let go of the seal. The essential yuan in his body circulated rapidly. In the next moment, a terrifying aura appeared on his body. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. The Great Void Sword Embryo in his hand shone brightly. This is the energy of a saint. You know the saint martial arts. Sensing this energy, Inhua's expression changed drastically. He roared in disbelief. Not bad, as expected of someone from the demon race. You have good eyesight. Tianyang smiled faintly. In the next moment, he struck with his sword. 10,000 swords returned to origin. No, how can you know the saint martial arts? I don't believe it. I am the demon king, Inhua. How can I die in this tiny Tianshao great world? With one strike, everything collapsed. Heaven and earth shattered. That sword light seemed to be the center of this world. It forcefully broke the seal. In the next moment, the sword light cut through the void and arrived in front of Inhua. No! Inhua's pupils contracted. He roared crazily. Demonic flames burned on his body. He even burned his demonic soul origin at the cost of his life. Fire demon talent. Demonic flames burn the heavens. Inhua let out a roar and unleashed a terrifying fiery fist seal. However, Tianyong only smiled. Break. With that, the sword light exploded. Chapter 728. One sword. With just one sword, the flame devil king that the Taishu emperor had spent an endless amount of his lifespan to suppress died, just like that. The power of this 10,000 swords return to origin has exceeded my expectations. Tianyong looked at the Taishu sword embryo in his hand and muttered to himself in surprise. The power of this 10,000 swords return to origin was indeed extraordinary. Originally, Tianyong had thought that no matter how weak this flame devil king was, he would still be able to exchange a few blows with him and deepen his understanding of the 10,000 swords return to origin. And the result? Tianyong had yet to do anything, and this fellow was already dead. Little friend Tianyong. The Taishu emperor was dumbfounded. Previously, he had tried to dissuade Tianyong when he destroyed the seal, but the result? The seal had been destroyed. However, the most important thing that had been sealed beneath the seal was also gone. Even the space that had been permeated to the extreme by the demonic qi was swept clean by the sword qi. Did this kind of strength really belong to a peak 7th level C of Soul Realm? Although Tianyong was a great emperor, the Taishu emperor had to admit that even if he was 10 times stronger than he was at the same cultivation level as Tianyong, he still wouldn't be able to do this. Indeed, the new generation surpasses the old, and the old dies on the beach. The Taishu emperor looked at Tianyong and sighed inwardly. Back then, Tianyong was merely a half-step C of Soul Realm and had to challenge his 1,000-level Refining Heart Tower. Now, even if Tianyong wanted to enter the 1,000-level Refining Heart Tower, it would probably be useless. In front of absolute strength, the 1,000-level Refining Heart Tower would also be useless. Now, this Flame Devil King can be considered dealt with. At this time, Tianyong sighed regretfully. If he had known, he would have suppressed it a little and not used the heaven-devouring secret technique. He had thought that this Flame Devil King boasted so loudly that it would at least have some ability. In the end, it was finished the moment he attacked. Playing with your head. Forget it. This time, many thanks to little friend Tianyong. The Emperor of Taishu hurriedly nodded and looked gratefully at Tianyong. If not for Tianyong's timely arrival, if he had been a year or two later, the Flame Devil King would have broken out of its seal. At that time, the first to be destroyed would be the Great Void Secret Realm and the surrounding cities like Sword Star City. Besides, there was no way he could survive Inhua's crazy revenge. Back then, although he had made a promise with Tianyong, he didn't have much hope. However, Tianyong had given him a huge surprise. I was asked to do so, so I have to do it. Tianyong smiled faintly, not taking it to heart. The 3 treasures that the Taishu Emperor had given him back then were still very useful to him. Tianyong was not an ungrateful person. He was indebted to the Great Void Emperor and would naturally remember it. By the way, I haven't introduced you yet. Tianyong didn't care, but that didn't mean that the Emperor of Taishu dared to slight him. In the Emperor of Taishu's heart, Tianyong was already more than 1 level higher than him. The Emperor of Taishu had even noticed Sanguinati, who was beside Tianyong. Sanguinati has been dead for 10,000 years. I barely managed to save him, but he's still a half-dead emperor. Oh, he wasn't considered an emperor back then. Tianyong introduced him with a smile. However, Sanguinati only felt a wave of sadness when he heard this. What did he mean by not considered an emperor? Although he was indeed the weakest amongst the emperors before he died, there was no need to be so blunt about it. Don't I care about my reputation? I see. The Emperor of Taishu nodded, but he didn't underestimate Sanguinati. He had seen a lot of Sanguinati's strength when he was alive. By the way, what plans do you have for the future? Seeing that the Emperor of Taishu wasn't interested in Sanguinati, Tianyang didn't intend to delve into the topic. As you wish. I'll take a good look at the Tianshao Great World countless years from now. When the time comes, I'll die naturally. This old man has lived long enough. The Emperor of Taishu smiled magnanimously, appearing rather carefree. At his level, he didn't care about life and death. I see. Tianyang fell silent as he looked at the Emperor of Taishu's aged face. As a fellow great emperor, he could empathize with the Emperor of Taishu's feelings. In the past, he dominated the world and suppressed the demons for 10,000 years. In the end, he narrowly escaped death and killed the demons. The ups and downs of life were nothing more than this. Then this token contains my soul brand. If you encounter any danger, you can crush it. I'll rush over as quickly as possible. As Tianyang spoke, a jade token appeared in his hand. A streak of soul power flowed through the token, and a long sword that seemed to pierce the heavens appeared on the token. This was Tianyang's soul brand. Thank you. The Emperor of Taishu smiled as he took the jade token. He didn't care much about it. He just didn't expect that the little guy who needed his help back then would be able to help him now. However, he didn't expect that this token would be so useful in the future. By the way, it seems like you still have something to do. The Emperor of Taishu took the token and looked curiously at Tianyang, who seemed to want to leave immediately. In the grudge of the past few years, Tianyang said lightly, killing intent flashing in his eyes. The Heavenly Een Mountain had been his enemy since he was in the northern wilderness region. All these years, it had been haunting him. Now was the time to completely destroy the Heavenly Een Mountain. In this case, my Great Void Secret Realm has a teleportation function. It can send you to the vicinity of your destination. Take it as a return gift for this token. How about it? The Emperor of Taishu smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes lit up. According to the records of the Dragon Tribe, although the Heavenly Een Mountain was in the central region, it was extremely remote. The headquarters moved frequently, and the people of the Heavenly Een Mountain knew the location of the headquarters through a binding technique. The East Sea Dragon Palace spent a lot of effort to find the location of the Heavenly Een Mountain headquarters. However, they didn't dare to be too sure. Tianyang was also thinking that with his speed, it wouldn't be a problem for him to arrive in a week. However, what if the Heavenly Een Mountain moved? Now, the Emperor of Taishu's teleportation array solved his problem. Then, thank you. Tianyang's eyes flashed as he smiled. In the southern part of the central region, in the 100,000 mountains, Heavenly Een Mountain, streams of black gas lingered around the mountain, even assimilating the surrounding mountain range. Sinister figures shuttled back and forth within the mountain range. This was the Heavenly Een Mountain. Since the establishment of the Heavenly Een Mountain 100,000 years ago, the mountain gate had never changed. Every 10 years, the Heavenly Een Mountain would move once. However, it wasn't people who moved. Instead, the entire mountain was moved to another place. Until now, it had been moved 10,000 times. Outside of this enormous mountain, a silver light flashed, and two figures appeared in this mountain range. Is that the Heavenly Een Mountain's current headquarters? Chapter 729. Vice Sect Leader Bai. It's almost time to move. Why did you call us here? Even Lord Hierarch was found for you. At the peak of the Heavenly Een Mountain, where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was the most abundant, several old men were sitting in a large hall. An old man who looked very gloomy frowned as he looked indifferently at Vice Sect Leader Bai, who was sitting at the head of the table. I called you here because I have something to say. Sect Leader Bai, do you want me to say it? Vice Sect Leader Bai coldly glanced at the old man. Hearing that, the old man's face instantly turned ugly. However, he didn't dare say anything because of Vice Sect Leader Bai's strength. Vice Sect Leader Bai was an expert who had been famous for a long time in the Sky Continent. He was already half a step into the Heavenly Ascension realm, and because of the pain of losing his grandson, he was now only a step away from the peak of the Heavenly Ascension realm. in the heavenly mountain. Only the sect leader could suppress him. Although he was half a step into the heavenly ascension realm, in front of vice sect leader Bai, he was still too weak. All right. The sect leader of the heavenly mountain, who was covered in a black robe, nodded. His voice was neither male nor female. Vice sect leader Bai faintly nodded. His eyes were filled with killing intent. You all should already know that my heavenly mountains people were all killed in the Earth Emperor's small world. Vice sect leader Bai said coldly. Hearing that, everyone nodded. When they found out about this, they were also incomparably furious. However, the heavenly mountains people had died too quickly. So quickly that they didn't even have time to send out any information before they died. As a result, they didn't even know who had killed their disciples and grand disciples at the beginning. Vice sect leader Bai, now that you mention this, does that mean you have news? Yes. Veins popped out on vice sect leader Bai's face. The aura of a peak half a step into the heavenly ascension realm exploded out. He roared in a hoarse voice. And we've already confirmed the murderer. Who is it? Bang! The table in front of the old men exploded. A furious old man stood up and looked at vice sect leader Bai as he angrily roared. Who is it? Who killed my disciple? This old man was called Peng Tianya. He was half a step into the reaching heaven state, and was also a vice sect master, and the young master of the heavenly mountain who died at the hands of Tianyang was his disciple. Peng Tang had changed his surname after becoming Peng Tianya's disciple. Peng Tianya had poured a lot of effort into Peng Tang, but in the end, he died in the earthly emperor's small world. Tianyang. Vice sect leader Bai's face was gloomy. Word by word, he listed the names of the two people who had spread his name throughout the heavenly mountain in the past few years. What? Hearing this, Peng Tianya's expression changed. He looked at vice sect leader Bai in disbelief. White Rock Wolf, are you sure you're telling the truth? Of course. White Rock Wolf was vice sect leader Bai's real name. White Rock Wolf's face darkened as he looked at Peng Tianya. Could it be that you're suspecting me? That's not it. It's just that this Tianyang actually dared to kill a true young master after killing a quasi-young master of my heavenly mountain. He simply doesn't put my heavenly mountain in his eyes. Peng Tianya shook his head. Although he was suspicious, he didn't dare to face White Rock Wolf head-on. With the cultivation of a half-step to the heavenly ascension realm, it wouldn't even take 100 rounds to kill him. How could I, White Rock Wolf, be lying? White Rock Wolf snorted coldly. He looked around at everyone and said coldly, So, I've gathered everyone here this time because of this Tianyang. Hearing this, the hearts of all the elders and sect leaders of the heavenly mountain trembled, thinking about how so many of them had gathered here because of a junior in his teens like Tianyang. Everyone felt incredulous. A few years ago, Tianyang had only killed a nameless pawn of their heavenly mountain. He was chased by the heavenly mountain, but he disappeared without a trace. Later on, when he rose to power in the firmament territory and killed the chief supervisor of the heavenly mountain in the firmament territory, he took advantage of Bai Ying's absence to destroy the heavenly mountain branch in the eastern part of the firmament territory. What infuriated them was that Tianyang had disguised himself as Bai Ying and destroyed a subordinate demonic sect of the heavenly demon cult. And what made them mad was that in the Great Void secret realm, Tianyang had domineeringly killed countless people of the heavenly mountain, killed Bai Ying, and killed Venerable Ironbone. Not long ago, Tianyang had attacked and killed the strongest genius of the heavenly mountain, the current young master Peng Tang, along with a group of other heavenly mountain geniuses. And now, he had gathered countless of the heavenly mountain's upper echelons, all because of him. It's only been a few years. Some people were shocked. That's right, from a nameless pawn to the entire heavenly mountain facing him, as if they were facing a great enemy. Tianyang had only used a few years. This Tianyang is already irreconcilable with the heavenly mountain. His strength is also unparalleled, and if given a little more time, he might have already broken through to the heavenly ascension realm. Bai Yanlang said coldly as he looked at the heavenly mountain's upper echelons in front of him. Beside him, The Heavenly Een Mountain sect leader nodded as streaks of blood flashed in his eyes. Clearly, even the sect leader of the Heavenly Een Mountain, who was famous in the Heavenly Clouds continent, was truly enraged. Therefore, I've decided to issue the lunar killing order to Tianyang. Anyone of the Heavenly Een Mountain who meets Tianyang must do their best to assassinate him. Us elders and sect leaders are no exception. The white granite wolf roared. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed simultaneously. Lunar killing order? Vice sect leader Bai, isn't this a little too much? An elder said with an incredulous expression. The lunar killing order was the ultimate killing order of the Heavenly Een Mountain. It could be said that in the 100,000 years of history of the Heavenly Een Mountain, the number of people who could be hunted down by the lunar killing order did not exceed 5. The lowest level was a powerful emperor like the Ice Emperor, and the highest was a great emperor who dominated the world. And in the past 4 times, no matter who the assassin was, they all died. They died at the hands of the Heavenly Een Mountain. Now, the honorable lunar killing order was actually going to be issued to a spiritual ocean realm. Too much. Bai Yanlang snorted coldly and looked at the elder who spoke. Even the sect leader allowed it. How can it be too much? This Tianyang has too much potential. If we don't care, our Heavenly Een Mountain will die sooner or later. Why don't we strike first and gain the upper hand? Bai Yanlang snorted coldly and released the aura of a half-step heavenly ascension realm. The powerful pressure almost caused the world to collapse. The elders' expressions changed and their hearts trembled. The Heavenly Een Mountain was going to be serious. Yes, we'll follow the sect leader's orders. The elders all stood up and said loudly, "Ha ha ha, lunar killing order? Interesting, very interesting." At this moment, an unbridled laughter came from the sky. A huge sword light tore through the Heavenly Een Mountain's barrier and directly killed its way to the peak. In an instant, it took the lives of several elders. I didn't think that Tianyang, would be chosen by the lunar killing order. Along with the laughter of a young man, a figure appeared in the sky. Seeing this, everyone's expressions changed greatly. You don't need to chase after me from so far away. Chapter 730. Now I'm here. Tianyang stood in the air, standing above the heads of countless people, and said arrogantly. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed. This person is Tianyang. The elders were shocked. Firstly, they were shocked by Tianyang's strength that killed several elders with one sword, and secondly, they were shocked by Tianyang's guts. Previously, the White Granite Wolf had even issued the ultimate kill order of Heavenly Een Mountain, the Heavenly Een Kill Order, to Tianyang. But in the next second, Tianyang himself appeared here. Countless elite elders of Heavenly Een Mountain, and even the vice sect leader and sect leader were present. The mountain protecting array was attacking the headquarters of Heavenly Een Mountain, which was still intact. The White Granite Wolf also noticed Tianyang's appearance, and his eyes instantly turned blood red. It's you who killed my grandson, the White Granite Wolf roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's brows twitched, and he looked over. When Tianyang saw that the White Granite Wolf's silhouette overlapped with the white figure silhouette, he was a little surprised. He then sneered, "Looks like you're the vice sect leader by who has tirelessly issued the kill order for me, and who's been defeated time and time again. TSK. How does it feel to fail every time you try to kill me?" Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, the White Granite Wolf's eyes turned completely blood red. A terrifying killing intent was released, and the ground beneath his feet cracked inch by inch. At this moment, an elder snorted and jumped out. "Vice Sec Leader Bai, please wait. This arrogant brat only knows how to use words to mock us. In reality, Tang Tian, can easily deal with him. Warm a pot of wine for me. After I take this brat's head, I'll return to see the vice sect leader." A middle-aged elder who looked slightly younger but had some white hair sneered. Hearing this, the White Granite Wolf turned around and glanced at that person. His face revealed a trace of astonishment. "Tang Tian, you're at the peak of the 9th level of Sea of Soul Realm, to deal with this brat. Don't worry, Elder. This kid is only at the sea of Soul Realm. He can't possibly be half a step into the reaching Heaven Realm. I'll be right back. Wanner, remember to warm the wine for me." The middle-aged elder named Tang Tian laughed heartily as he looked at the white granite wolf. The white granite wolf was taken aback. Then he nodded his head, his eyes twinkling. Tang Tian's strength was at peak level 9 C of Soul Realm, which was already quite strong. Using him to test Tianyang's strength would be perfect. After obtaining the white granite wolf's approval, Tang Tian was overjoyed. He turned around and gave the order, then rushed out. In ancient times, Guan Yu slew Hua Xiong with warm wine. Today, Elder Tang slew Tianyang with warm wine. The lady beside him, who looked older than Tang Tian, also took out some good wine with a proud look on her face. She poured out a bowl and warmed it with fire. Tang Tian laughed out loud. His figure disappeared from where he was and appeared in front of Tianyang. The moment he saw Tianyang, Tang Tian's face turned ferocious. "Brat, my son died in your hands. So die for me," Tang Tian roared. The true essence of peak level 9 C of Soul Realm in his body activated the power of heaven and earth. It violently gushed out and condensed into an extremely terrifying fist. Hearing this, Tianyang was slightly taken aback. "Your son? Who's your son? There's too much I can't remember. You're courting death." Hearing this, Tang Tian was instantly enraged. "Facing so many experts on my Heavenly Mountain, you actually dare to be so arrogant. Arrogant to the extreme. Peerless Earth Tier martial skill. Unparalleled Imperial Heaven Palm." Tang Tian roared. The true essence in his body surged out like a tsunami. He looked at Tianyang with a ferocious expression, and rays of golden light flickered in his hands. "Die for me," Tang Tian roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's brows twitched. Unparalleled Imperial Heaven Palm? The power is not bad, but unfortunately, you've cultivated it like a dog's fart. Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Tang Tian flew into a rage. "You're about to die, and you still dare to be arrogant. Unparalleled Imperial Heaven, suppressing 10,000 worlds." Tang Tian roared. However, Tianyang was too lazy to talk nonsense with this guy. In his heart, the Divine Dragon's dragon core shone with 108 Divine Dragon patterns. The dragon power gathered and punched out. Dragon King Divine Fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Countless Divine Dragons' dragon power condensed into an incomparably powerful dragon power dragon. Each dragon power dragon was like a real dragon. Countless dragon power dragons almost completely covered Tianyang. And after this punch was punched out, roar. Tens of thousands of dragon power dragons roared and rushed out. The Divine Dragon's dragon power released an extremely powerful light and fiercely bombarded the unparalleled Imperial Heaven Palm. This, Tang Tian's expression instantly changed. He looked at the tens of thousands of dragon power dragons in front of him in disbelief. His heart hardened, and he actually bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. Scram! But unfortunately, this mouthful of blood essence, even if it landed accurately on the unparalleled Imperial Heaven Palm, it would not have any effect at all. That was because Tang Tian's head was directly blasted apart by this punch. Bang! Under the dumbstruck gazes of countless people, Tang Tian's head exploded like a watermelon. Mixed with the fragments of his spirit, his blood splattered everywhere, and the majority of it, unexpectedly, landed on the wine bowl that Tang Tian had ordered to be warmed. The good wine that would cost at least 1,000,000 spirit stones per drop if it was auctioned by the Void Trading Company was directly dyed red by Tang Tian's blood. Ah! The old lady instantly screamed. Then, her gaze turned fierce, and she turned to look at Tianyang, who was standing in the air with a calm expression. "Kid, you actually killed my gigolo. You're courting death." The old woman let out a furious roar. Her figure disappeared and reappeared in front of Tianyang in the next instant. Gigolo. Hearing that, Tianyang was stunned for a moment, but he still reacted. A lot of goosebumps appeared all over his body. This guy is really the best. However, this old lady is actually a powerhouse who is infinitely close to half-step heaven ascension realm. Interesting. Tianyang chuckled and looked at the old lady who used a half-step heaven tier martial technique to kill him. He sneered. I'll send you and your gigolo on the same path. Dragon King Divine Fist. Countless dragon power dragons appeared again, and another deafening dragon roar. The old lady who had just reached out her claws to kill Tianyang instantly had a huge change in expression. She actually felt the threat of death from these dragon power dragons. No, the old lady screamed, and the true essence in her body surged out violently. She was just about to escape, but unfortunately, how could Tianyang let her escape just like that? Boom! This old lady was even more miserable than Tang Tian previously. Her entire body turned into a cloud of blood mist, and she died without a complete corpse. Damnable guy. Seeing Tang Tian and the old lady die in Tianyang's hands almost instantly, White Rockwolf's face also darkened. Peng Tianya, who was beside him, rushed out in fury. You actually dare to kill my woman, kid? You're courting death. Peng Tianya roared loudly, and the aura of a half-step heaven ascension realm gushed out violently. At this time, Tianyang finally reacted. His mind spun one round, and the circle of nobles was really messy. Then he chuckled. Sanguinati, come out. Yes. A cold snort sounded. In the next moment, a shocking bloody light suddenly appeared, and the aura of a third-level heaven ascension realm erupted. A bloody hole appeared between Peng Tianya's eyebrows. Peng Tianya's advancing figure also came to a halt. Then, like a golden mountain toppling a jade pillar, he fell down. With a slash of the sword, his body and soul were completely shattered. Chapter 731. Peng Tianya was dead. Looking at Peng Tianya, who had crashed onto the ground and was clearly dead, everyone from the lunar mountain felt a wave of dizziness. His soul had been extinguished, and even his head had a hole. He was clearly dead, but everyone still did not dare to believe it. After all, he was one of the vice sect masters of the lunar mountain. A half-step into heaven ascension realm expert, was a supreme overlord in the entire continent. Daring to attack my lord. The courage of this weakling is indeed extraordinary. At this moment, a voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell slowly sounded out. An extremely indifferent gaze swept across the people of the lunar mountain. Immediately after, Sanguinati, dressed in a blood-red robe, walked out from the spatial crack. The blood sword in his hand released the light of a middle-grade spirit artifact. After a month of Tianyang's recovery, although Sanguinati did not use the soul infant fruit to recover, he had already recovered to the battle strength of a heaven ascension realm third layer. It was enough to compare with the true overlords of the martial sacred grounds. And among the first-rate factions, he was simply an invincible existence. Heaven Ascension Realm. Heaven Ascension Realm Expert. As for the old man who had a small conflict with Bai Yinlang, he was currently looking at Sanguinati as if he had seen a ghost. A blood-red robe covered the terrifying body that was only left with a skeleton. In his eye sockets, the dark green soul fire released a strange and indescribable radiance. Ordinary people would be scared out of their wits with just a glance. Even if these people had experienced hundreds of battles and seen many things, they still felt incomparable fear. After all, this skeleton did not only have a frightening appearance, even his strength was tyrannical to the extreme. There's actually a Heaven Ascension Realm expert behind Tianyang. Bai Yinlong's heart trembled, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. His entire body turned ice cold. A Heaven Ascension Realm expert. What kind of existence was that? Even if he had broken through now, he could only look up to them. Only a Heaven Ascension Realm first layer, and the elusive Lunar Mountain sect master, was able to lead the Lunar Mountain to become a first-rate faction second only to the sacred grounds of martial arts. And now, They were going against someone with a Heaven Ascension Realm 3rd layer backing him. Oomph. What kind of trick is this? Heavenly Completion Realm experts aren't cabbages that can be found on the streets. How could you possibly run into them so casually? Don't think that you can scare us with a skeleton. Those who dare to offend the heavenly mountain will die. At this moment, the other Vice Sect leader coldly snorted. Looking at the Sanguinati who had not moved since he had appeared, he felt emboldened. He was proficient in movement techniques, and his control over space was the best among the Vice Sect masters. In the Heavenly Mountain, he was second only to the Heavenly Mountain Sect master. Even if he went to assassinate a reaching Heaven State expert, this Vice Sect master could easily escape. Although it was a head-on battle, it shouldn't be a problem for him to retreat after a single strike. Yes, Cult Master Jiang was right. A mere Tianyang dares to shit on my Heavenly Mountain? This skeleton is just pretending to be a ghost. This Tianyang dares to offend my Heavenly Mountain. He will definitely die. When Vice Sect leader Jiang's words came out, it immediately attracted the response of countless higher-ups of the Heavenly Mountain. Seeing this, Vice Sect leader Jiang sneered and became even more confident. The dignity of the Heavenly Mountain cannot be violated. Vice Sect leader Jiang roared, and the true essence in his body surged out. His figure instantly disappeared on the spot. In the next moment, the dagger in his hand released a cold light that filled the sky. Using a movement technique, his entire person seemed to have merged into space. His aura, figure, and scent did not spread out at all. This is the half-step heaven rank movement technique that Vice Sect leader Jiang is proficient in, the space escape technique. It's said that it can merge into space. Whether it's chasing or escaping, it has a huge effect. Once this space escape technique is used, this guy who is pretending to be mysterious will definitely die. Everyone's hearts trembled as they laughed loudly. Their gazes towards Sanguinati also became extremely mocking. In their eyes, Tianyang and Sanguinati were just arrogant people who dared to invade the Heavenly Mountain just because they had some strength. If Peng Tinya hadn't underestimated the enemy, how could he have died under the sneak attack of these two people? Merging into space. Interesting. When Tianyang saw this scene, his brows also raised. Merging into space, such a movement technique was rather strange. It was Tianyang's first time seeing it. However, this movement technique was only a half-step heaven rank martial technique. If it was a heaven rank martial technique, then it would be perfect. As for now, Sanguinati, you don't need me to teach you what to do, right? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, Sanguinati's body trembled and he nodded. His dark green soul fire instantly turned blood red. A surge of killing intent bloomed from Sanguinati's body. Not good. Feeling the surge of killing intent and the endless blood-red light rushing over, Bai Yinlong's expression changed, and he hurriedly roared, "Old Jiang, quickly retreat." Retreat? What retreat? Can't you see that I'm about to kill this guy? At this moment, a disdainful laugh sounded. Tianyang turned his head to look and instantly burst into laughter. This guy's body had already been exposed by the blood-red light, and he actually still dared to be so arrogant. Ha ha, just wait and see. The first one I'll kill is this skeleton. Deputy Sect leader Jiang laughed maniacally. His voice seemed to come from all directions, and one couldn't hear any direction at all. If he really merged into space, then it would really be difficult to find him. However, now, the voice that was difficult to find was just a joke when his body was exposed. Sky-severing sword technique. First strike, second strike, third strike. Sanguinati wouldn't hold back at all. His soul power gushed out, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was drawn over, turning into the supreme power of heaven and earth that gathered on Sanguinati's sword. The aura of a Heaven Ascension Stage Level 3 surged out, and in the next moment, the blood-red flames in Sanguinati's eyes violently rose. Boom! 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. A total of 3 kill words condensed in an instant. Immediately after, the whole area was covered in the color of blood, shrouding it. Suddenly, The surrounding air seemed to become gloomy and cold. Before the crowd could react to what was happening, an even purer and more powerful killing intent exploded out. This was Tianyang's Massacre Domain. The Massacre Domain, coupled with the Heaven Ascension Stage Level 3's Sky, Severing Sword Technique, Triple Strike. Die for me! Sanguinati roared furiously. At this moment, Deputy Sect Leader Jiang realized that something was wrong with the surroundings. However, by the time he reacted, it was already too late. Boom! Heaven and earth shattered, and space exploded. The three strikes combined into one. While no one could block them, they brazenly shattered Deputy Sect Leader Jiang's armor and chopped his body into fine powder. Then, the killing intent swept out, enveloping Deputy Sect Leader Jiang and gently moving. Deputy Sect Leader Jiang dead. Chapter 732. In the entire Heavenly Ean Mountain, there were only a few Vice Sect leaders and one Sect leader. Now, only 2 of them had died, and the remaining 2 couldn't possibly be a match for the Blood Sword Ruler, who had killed the 2 Vice Sect Masters in 2 strikes. After all, a 3rd-layer Heaven Ascension Realm expert was really too terrifying. Vice Sect Leader Bai, this is all you're doing. At this moment, a furious roar came from the Heavenly Ean Mountains camp. An elder's face was extremely furious as he looked at White Granite Wolf. If it weren't for your grandson insisting on chasing after Tianyang, how could there be such a huge enmity between Tianyang and our Heavenly Ean Mountain? Now that Tianyang has killed his way to the mountain, you're actually still watching from the side? Peng Tianya and Vice Sect Leader Jiang are both dead, and you're actually still watching? That elder roared with righteous indignation. Hearing this, everyone came to a realization, and their faces were extremely unsightly as they looked at White Granite Wolf. Indeed, it was just as that elder said. All of this was caused by White Granite Wolf. And White Granite Wolf was actually watching from the side. White Granite Wolf's face instantly became extremely unsightly. Looking at that 5th-layer sea of Soul Realm Elder who was filled with righteous indignation, he had an impulse to choke him to death. However, he restrained himself and couldn't make a move. If he made a move now, his only backing, the sect leader, would probably fall out with him and send him out for Tianyang to vent his anger. At that time, he would truly be consigned to eternal damnation in the entire Heavenly Ean Mountain. Only he knew that the sect leader's strength was far from being as simple as it seemed on the surface. If I say right now that I only want to chase after the main culprit and let the others go, what would you do? At this moment, Tianyang looked at the Heavenly Ean Mountains, people who were busy with internal strife in the face of an external enemy, and grinned and laughed loudly. Hearing this, everyone was stunned, and White Granite Wolf was also stunned. Then a bone-piercing chill rushed from his back to the top of his head. If Tianyang really said that, then even the leader might not be able to protect him. A Heaven Ascension Stage 3 expert could practically destroy the Heavenly Ean Mountain, and between the Heavenly Ean Mountain and his Vice Sect Leader, Bai, who was more important, the sect leader was still able to distinguish. Unfortunately, I can't say that. Seeing the different expressions on the faces of the Heavenly Ean Mountain people, Tianyang suddenly felt a trace of interest. He chuckled and said, "I came this time to kill all of you." What? Hearing this, the expressions of the Heavenly Ean Mountain people completely changed. They stared at Tianyang, their eyes filled with uncontrollable anger. Tianyang, be careful. The wind is strong, and you'll sprain your back. So what if you have an expert of the 3rd level of the Heavenly Completion Realm as your backer? My Heavenly Ean Mountain's foundation is definitely not as simple as this. When the time comes, be careful of a life and death struggle. The elders roared one after another. If it was before, they wouldn't even bother to threaten Tianyang with this. In their eyes, Tianyang was just an ant that they could casually kill. But now, the ant from before had already become a dragon that could destroy them. They could only take out the only capital they could take out to fight Tianyang. My lord, the Heavenly Ean Mountain was able to exist for 100,000 years. They definitely aren't easy to deal with. We should be careful. At this time, Sanguinati also transmitted his voice to Tianyang. Tianyang nodded slightly. Of course, he knew how powerful these ancient factions were. Perhaps these ancient inheritances didn't have much power on the surface, but the foundation that had been left behind for countless years would definitely be unparalleled if they were to explode. Tianyang, your strength might be very strong, but it's still not enough to destroy my Heavenly Yin Mountain. At this time, the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain, who had been silent all this time, stood out. Under the black robe, a voice that was neither male nor female sounded. You have already killed many of my Heavenly Yin Mountain's elders and 2 vice sect leaders. Even if my Heavenly Yin Mountain chased you many times before, it has already been repaid. If you are willing to stop now, the grudge between my Heavenly Yin Mountain and you can be written off. The sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain said. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly. The group of people behind the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain were also shocked. Written off? If this was written off a few months ago, or a day ago, or even 2 hours ago, they wouldn't be so surprised. With the strength that Tianyang had erupted, it was enough to make their Heavenly Yin Mountain wary. However, one had known that vice sect leader had issued the Heavenly Yin killing order in front of countless of them. In a situation where the Heavenly Yin killing order was issued, they still had to settle the grudge. Then, this wasn't just the Heavenly Yin Mountain being wary. They were admitting defeat. He had completely and utterly admitted defeat. The entire Heavenly Yin Mountain couldn't raise their heads in front of Tianyang. Sect leader, when Elder opened his mouth and tried to persuade the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain. However, the only response he received was a fatal bloody light. The white granite wolf was released and killed this elder. The bloody light shot out and dyed the ground red. Seeing this, everyone kept quiet out of fear. The main culprit, Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled, then they relaxed. Although Tianyang still wanted the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain to hand over the white granite wolf, if the sect leader agreed, they wouldn't have to die. Countless malicious gazes were cast on the white granite wolf again. The white granite wolf's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. He looked at the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain in fear and trembling. If the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain agreed, he would definitely be doomed if he fell into Tianyang's hands. White granite wolf. The sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain's face darkened, but because of the black robe, outsiders couldn't see anything. Your request is too much. My Heavenly Mountain has already lost 2 vice sect leaders. The remaining 2 vice sect leaders aren't enough to support such a large force. So, you're refusing? Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. He smiled and said, Since you're refusing, then it's easy to handle. Let me tell you, I'm being calm with you because I'm playing with you. Of course I'll take the life of my enemy myself. Tianyang laughed loudly. He circulated the divine desolate heaven spiritual art and the myriad Tao movement technique that he had accumulated for a long time burst out. Myriad Tao movement technique plus void step secret technique. It was unknown how many thousands of times faster than the speed of sound. Tianyang's figure instantly disappeared from the spot, and the great void sword embryo also appeared in front of the white granite wolf. Boom! It wasn't until the white granite wolf and Tianyang were engaged in battle that the explosion sounded. Only then did the sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain turn around in hindsight. Tianyang, don't go too far. The sect leader of the Heavenly Yin Mountain roared, Don't think that you have a Heaven Ascension Stage Level 3 as your backer. You're wrong. At this moment, Tianyang swung his sword and forced the white granite wolf to retreat. The true Yuan in his body suddenly released, and the fluctuation of a heaven-rank martial soul spread out. It's not that he's my backer. It's me who's his backer. Martial soul, innate talent. Devour the heavens. Tianyang roared. Endless heaven and earth spiritual chi. Devour. Converge. Under the astonished gazes of countless people, Tianyang's cultivation rose rapidly, reaching the peak of the half-step heaven ascension stage. P.S. Today's school sports day doesn't allow phones. My writing tools were confiscated. These 3 chapters were typed in an internet cafe. Sorry for the late update. Chapter 733. Half Step to Heavenly Completion Stage Peak. Countless people looked up to, countless people pursued, countless people tried their best, but were unable to achieve anything. Those that were able to reach such a stage were all dazzling geniuses that had gone through countless years of accumulation. Even the youngest half-step heavenly completion stage expert in the Heavenly Clouds continent was close to 100 years old. Moreover, that was when he had ignited his life force and reached the peak of his cultivation. The result? Tianyang's background was known by almost everyone present. Apart from the time when he was treated as trash in the Lingyun sect, due to him being too obscure, very few people were able to gather information about him. For example, when he started cultivating, 15 years old. Now, for years had passed. 19 years old, perhaps a little short. 4 years from the body refinement stage to the spiritual sea stage, and now, directly to the half-step to heavenly completion stage peak. Such a terrifying breakthrough speed, if listed separately, perhaps no one would have discovered it. However, recalling it in this extreme shock was an enormous impact that was enough to shatter one's soul. How is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? The white granite wolf madly roared as he looked in disbelief at Tianyang, whose cultivation had soared a half-step to heavenly completion stage peak and seemed to be still rising. Half-step to heavenly completion stage peak, what a rare stage. Even he had only broken through after experiencing the pain of losing his grandson. Tianyang was only a brat. How could he have reached such a stage? However, there was already no one who could answer the white granite wolf. Even the Lunar Mountain sect master with an extraordinary background had a lifeless gaze at this moment, and was even more shocked than Ku Aoyang from the ancient shrine. As expected, the gap between half-step to heavenly completion stage peak and heavenly completion stage peak is not so easy to cross. Although my base cultivation has risen quite a bit, I'm still unable to break through to heavenly completion stage peak. Tianyang muttered to himself. The gap between half-step to heavenly completion stage peak and heavenly completion stage peak could not even be described as a chasm. The heaven-devouring secret technique was a whirlpool that could extract the spiritual chi of heaven and earth equivalent to water, but it was still unable to fill up this enormous chasm. However, even if I haven't broken through to heavenly completion stage peak, killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. Tianyang smiled faintly. The great void sword embryo in his hand released an incomparably terrifying light. An aura pressure that was equal to, or even stronger than the white granite wolf's was released. What are you doing? The Heavenly Een Mountain sect master's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to help, he was stopped by the cold-faced little guy. With me here, don't even think about attacking my lord. Bang! White Rockwolf's expression changed greatly. He had just recovered from his disbelief, but the true essence in his body began to tremble uncontrollably. He was actually sent flying several feet by the pressure of this aura. In the next moment, Tianyang's eyes were cold as he stepped into the massacre domain. His pupils turned blood red as he disappeared. In the next moment, the sky was filled with blood. Dao to Dao to completion Dao to completion stage Dao. Dao to Dao to completion stage Dao. Tianyang roared as the great void sword embryo slashed out with boundless killing intent. The power of the domain suppressed this part of the world. Unknowingly, the Heavenly Een Mountain had been riddled with holes from battle after battle. Just the start of this move shattered countless boulders on the peak of Heavenly Peak. The height of this level was almost wiped out. Damn it! Low-grade Heaven Tier Martial Technique, Great Een Death Hand. Heavenly Completion Stage Peak. Heavenly Completion Stage Peak. White Granite Wolf gritted his teeth and forced himself to break free from the negative emotions. The true yuan in his body circulated, and strange death chi condensed in his hand. In the next moment, Heavenly Completion Stage Peak's body flashed, and an extremely terrifying palm struck out. It collided with the Tao of Azura. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. At this moment, the ground beneath everyone's feet could no longer endure the injuries from the battles, and it exploded with a bang. The heavenly peak that had been passed down for 100,000 years and had never been damaged in the slightest exploded at this moment. Damn it! The sect peak to heavenly completion stage, Peak's expression darkened to the extreme. The true Yuan in his body surged out violently, and the black robe on his body exploded inch by inch. Following this, rays of powerful black light burst out from the patriarch of the heavenly Een Mountain and sprayed in all directions. Some of the black light landed on a large tree, and the tree instantly turned into ashes without a trace of life remaining. Even those elder-level figures fled in panic after being infected by the black light. Sanguinati's expression changed slightly. He slashed out with the blood sword in his hand, and a beam of blood light split into countless numbers and charged towards the beams of black light. Boom! A loud sound rang out, and a terrifying shockwave erupted. Sanguinati and the sect peak both retreated several hundred feet at the same time. Layers of smoke covered the entire sky above Heavenly Peak. Sanguinati's expression was grave. He raised his hand, and one could see the arm bone that had the strength and toughness of a Heaven Ascension realm expert. Now, that unknown black light had corroded a large hole in it. Heavenly Completion Stage Peak, who was being suppressed by Tianyang, was shocked and revealed a trace of maniacal laughter. Ha! The sect leader finally used that move. No matter how strong you are, you'll all die. White Rock Wolf laughed maniacally. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. His soul power at the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm was released and swept towards the Lunar Mountain Hierarch. He sensed that the sect leader of Heavenly Peak's current state was extremely strange. The Heavenly Peak's heritage must be extremely deep for it to have been passed down for 100,000 years. However, this mountain-protecting formation isn't very strong. Then, the only explanation is that this heritage has been used in other areas. Tianyang's eyes widened, and he stared fixedly at the sect leader of Heavenly Peak, who was hidden in the smoke. The true Yuan in his body violently surged out. Sanguinati, be careful. Tianyang's body instantly disappeared from the spot. His massacred domain expanded to the extreme, and he ruthlessly pressed down on the sect leader of Heavenly Peak. You're courting death. A cold snort that was neither male nor female was heard. In the next moment, the hazy smoke suddenly turned a deep purple color. Moreover, a storm suddenly appeared and blew the purple smoke away. This is... Tianyang's pupils shrank, and a trace of shock rose in his heart as he looked at the rapidly spreading purple smoke under the storm. That's right, this is my Heavenly Peak physique that has been passed down for 100,000 years and has only been activated 3 times. Myriad Poison Body. The sect leader of Heavenly Peak laughed loudly, and in the next moment, the purple smoke suddenly exploded. In the next moment, the faces of the Heavenly Peak elders that had inhaled the smoke changed greatly, and their bodies exploded in shock. Countless pieces of flesh and blood converged into a flood and poured into the center of the smoke. The sect leader of Heavenly Peak did not decline and swallowed the flesh and blood into his body. His cultivation instantly skyrocketed. Heavenly Completion Realm 2nd Layer. Heavenly Completion Realm 2nd Layer Peak. Heavenly Completion Realm 3rd Layer. Heavenly Completion Realm 3rd Layer Peak. Heavenly Completion Realm 4th Layer. Chapter 734. Ascension Realm, Level 4. A terrifying pressure that could make the world tremble and all living beings tremble was released. Under the pressure of this pressure, even the elders who did not inhale the purplish smoke changed their expressions. Their bodies were squeezed into balls of flesh under this pressure and then exploded. This 10,000 poison body has been nurtured for a full 100,000 years. In this 100,000 years, it has only been opened 3 times. The Heavenly Een Mountain sect master's faint voice sounded. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed abruptly. The purple smoke that he had accidentally inhaled suddenly erupted. That smoke seemed ordinary, but it seemed to corrode Tianyang's flesh and blood into liquid. In a short moment, Tianyang's body was in turmoil, and Tianyang's expression turned ugly. Fortunately, the divine dragon body was worthy of its name. The divine dragon's dragon core refined this wisp of purple smoke as soon as it was used. However, Tianyang also felt a trace of fear that he had never felt before. No matter how strong the demon emperor was, he was only a remnant soul. Even if he was given 100 years, he might not be able to do anything. However, the 10,000 poison body in front of him was the world's greatest disaster. The 10,000 poison body, this kind of body, should have completely disappeared with the passage of time. Who would have thought that the heavenly Een mountain had secretly passed it down for 100,000 years? If I'm not wrong, the sect masters of the heavenly Een mountain should have been proficient in the art of possession and forcibly occupied this 10,000 poison body. Tianyang said indifferently as a strange light flashed in his eyes. The 10,000 poison body wasn't a natural body like the 9 Nether Saint body, Ice Sky Spirit body, or Divine Blade body. It was created after birth. If one wanted to create the 10,000 poison body, they had to collect all the poisons in the world. Using all the poisons in the world to refine the disasters in the world, they would turn into a human-shaped disaster, the 10,000 poison body. Moreover, before the refinement of the 10,000 poison body began, the body used to bear the poison had to be a human under the age of 14. It also needed special adaptability. However, even with that special ability to adapt, it could only slightly increase the chances of success. Who knows how many hundreds of thousands of young boys and girls would die in order to successfully refine the 10,000 poison body. The most infuriating thing was that when refining the 10,000 poison body and tempering the body with 10,000 poisons, the person had to be awake and endure the terrifying pain. Forcefully occupy? What a joke! This 10,000 poison body originally belonged to my heavenly Een mountain, but belonged to a lowly mortal 100,000 years ago. My heavenly Een mountain was able to let this body live for 100,000 years, and even let her reach the heavenly ascension realm step by step. Just how lucky is this? The heavenly Een mountain sect master's androgynous voice rang out. At this moment, the smoke completely dissipated. The figure of a little girl, who was only about 34 meters tall, with a childish face and a trace of madness and evil, was exposed. Seeing this, Sanguinati's face changed color, and he revealed his anger. How could you even lay your hands on such a young girl? You're worse than beasts. Sanguinati roared. Hearing this, the heavenly Een mountain sect master sneered, but this sneer was twisted on the face of the little girl who was only about 10 years old. Mortal, to be chosen by my heavenly Een mountain is already extremely lucky. As for what will happen after being chosen, that's her fate. Compared to the 1.5 million trash who died to the 10,000 poison body, this mortal is already lucky enough. The heavenly Een mountain sect master sneered. At this moment, Tianyang's face was indifferent, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he slowly spoke. You should be a man. It's not easy for a man to take over a woman's body, and it's even harder for him to use his full strength. No wonder you didn't make a move when I went on a killing spree. So that's why. Tianyang's voice didn't fluctuate much, but the coldness in his words seemed to come from the depths of hell. Originally, Tianyang only planned to kill all the upper echelons of the heavenly Een mountain before stopping. He didn't expect the heavenly Een mountain to refine something like the 10,000 poison body. The refining method of the 10,000 poison body was already extremely cruel and inhumane. If it was released, just the purple smoke that killed 80% of the upper echelons of the heavenly Een mountain could easily slaughter an entire realm. If the 10,000 poison body's ability was released, it wouldn't be a problem to kill billions of people. Oof, kid, you talk too much. The heavenly Een mountain sect master's face instantly darkened, and he disappeared from his spot. Death Chi gathered in his hand, and he punched out. Extreme in Death Fist. With this punch, death chi and poison chi mix together, fusing with the aura of a Heaven Ascension Stage 4, and attack Tianyang. Sky Extreme Sword Art. Fifth Sword, trampling all life. Tianyang coldly snorted, and the great void sword embryo in his hand exploded with sword light. The true Yuan of a half-step Heaven Ascension stage surged out, and he slashed out. Fourth Sword, Firmament. Fifth Sword, trampling all life. Sixth Sword, conquer heaven and earth. Seventh Sword, Sky Extreme. The last four swords were the strongest of the Sky Extreme sword arts, four swords. The fifth sword suddenly erupted. Boom! The Extreme in Death Fist and the fifth sword fiercely collided, causing endless spatial fluctuations. The Heavenly Mountain was once again flattened by dozens of meters. Endless poison chi was released, fiercely spreading in all directions. Countless elders, disciples, and death warriors of the Heavenly Mountain died when they inhaled this poison chi. Even the expressions of the two vice sect masters who were still alive in the distance changed greatly. Before they could take out the antidote, they had already fallen to the ground, only leaving behind a single breath. The power of the 10,000 poison body was far from what these two half-step Heaven Ascension stage could contend against. Even if I die, the entire southern central region will be buried with me. Kid, you too. Once the 10,000 poison body appears, no one in this world can stop it except for the ancient shrine master. White Rock Wolf fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of black blood as he laughed maniacally. At this moment, Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly struck out with his sword, using the 10,000 paths movement technique to appear several miles away. A giant hand, completely condensed from poison chi, suddenly appeared where he was originally standing. If he was hit by this attack, no matter how strong Tianyang was, he would inevitably be poisoned, as expected of the 10,000 poison body. This technique is indeed strange and powerful. Tianyang's expression darkened. The heavenly flame of annihilation in his hand suddenly burned and enveloped his entire body. The poison chi in the surroundings would be easily burned once it approached Tianyang. However, although the heavenly flame of annihilation was strong, it was still very difficult to kill the sect master of the Heavenly Mountain. Spiritual flame? Seeing this, the sect master of the Heavenly Mountain's expression changed slightly, revealing a sinister smile. Legend has it that spiritual flame is the nemesis of all poisons. Now I want to see if your spiritual flame can kill my 10,000 poison body. Chapter 735. The 10,000 poison nether flame. The endless flame was like a ghost. It was formed from a deep purplish-black color, as if it wanted to dye the entire world purplish-black. The endless poison gas released by the 10,000 poison body also reached its peak the moment the 10,000 poison nether flame appeared. Once the 10,000 poison nether flame appears, all life within a radius of 5 kilometers will be extinguished. The white granite wolf widened his eyes as he looked at the dazzling 10,000 poison nether flame. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and closed his eyes. The endless poison gas entered the white granite wolf's body through his nostrils, pores, mouth, ears, and other orifices. Before long, the white granite wolf's body was completely dyed by the poison gas. Immediately after, the poison gas took effect. The white granite wolf's body instantly turned into a ball of pus, and he died a violent death. The other vice sect master did not last long before he died as well. The two vice sect masters of the Heavenly Mountain could lead large clans and dominate 4 territories. They were the supreme overlords of the entire Tianshao Great World. With a stomp of their feet, the entire central region would tremble. They were dead. They died at the hands of the Heavenly Mountain sect master. Ha ha ha! How is it? My move is not bad, right? A maniacal laugh came from the sky. The purplish-black pillar of fire reached the sky. The extremely dark flame could be seen clearly by the entire mountain range. At the same time, the poison of 10,000 poisons will follow your line of sight and enter your body. This guy is insane. By doing this, the first to become a ghost realm will be the heavenly Mountain. Sanguinati's expression changed drastically as he roared at the heavenly Mountain sect master, who was laughing maniacally. Tianyang shook his head when he heard that and looked gravely at the heavenly Mountain sect master. This guy's already gone crazy, Tianyang said in a deep voice. Heavenly Sun said in a deep voice. The myriad poison body was not only ruthless to its enemies, but also to itself. The body of the 10,000 poison body contained almost all the poisons in this world. These poisons were not only used by the controller of the 10,000 poison body to attack the enemy. These poisons could be used to attack the enemy, but they could also be used to attack oneself. If too much poison was fused, it could even attack one's mind and damage one's soul. The 10,000 poisoned body had been passed down for 100,000 years. Who knew how many times it had been possessed? Naturally, it was extremely weak. As countless souls entered, a new type of poison was born. However, the current sect master of the Heavenly Mountain just happened to be in existence who had possessed a female body as a man. His control over his body was naturally far inferior to those seniors who had possessed a female body. The soul toxins that were useless against the seniors all came into effect when the Heavenly Mountain sect master unleashed the full power of the 10,000 poison body. Am I crazy? Even if I go mad, all of you will die with me. The sect master of the Heavenly Mountain laughed maniacally as the true Yuan of a Heaven Ascension stage level 4 surged out and fiercely charged towards Tianyang. Repent for your arrogance and conceit in the myriad poisons. To be able to die at the hands of my 10,000 poisons nether flame, you should feel honored when you reach the underworld. Low-class, heaven-tier martial technique. 10,000 poisons, god-destroying palm. The sect master of the Heavenly Mountain madly roared. Endless poisonous gas and poisonous flames intertwined as the true Yuan of a Heaven Ascension stage level 4 condensed into a huge palm print in the air. This palm print was fused with 10,000 poisons. Not only did it have the power to destroy life, it could also directly injure the soul. The 10,000 poisons body is indeed powerful. Feeling the powerful aura of the 10,000 poisons god-destroying palm, Tianyang's face sank slightly as the true Yuan of a half-step Heaven Ascension stage fluctuated. In the next instant, Tianyang's aura once again rose sharply. Heaven Ascension stage level soul strength. Activate. This time, I'll activate 40% of it, Tianyang muttered to himself. In the next instant, his aura rose steadily like a bamboo shoot after the rain. In the eyes of ordinary people, the insurmountable gap between half-step Heaven Ascension stage and Heaven Ascension stage was as weak as tofu. Heaven Ascension stage level 1. Heaven Ascension stage level 2. Heaven Ascension stage level 3. Heaven Ascension stage level 4. Heaven Ascension stage level 5. 40% of his soul strength allowed Tianyang to break through 5 whole levels, 1 whole level. As the terrifying pressure of a Heaven Ascension stage level 5 was released, Tianyang's face paled slightly. The current him still didn't have the strength to activate this soul strength that had been strengthened countless times. However, it's enough to deal with this scum. Tianyang's eyes flashed. In the next instant, he used the 10,000 paths movement technique, and the great void sword embryo in his hand released the supreme Xingguang. Peerless heaven tier martial technique. 10,000 swords return to origin. How is this possible? Seeing Tianyang's aura suddenly soar, the Lunar Mountain sect master's expression changed greatly as he roared in disbelief. However, that dazzling sword light had already arrived in front of him. Damn it! 10,000 poisons god-destroying palm. Block it for me. The Lunar Mountain sect master roared. That massive palm print instantly condensed an endless amount of poisonous light. The 10,000 poisons nether flame burned fiercely as it fiercely collided with the 10,000 swords returned to origin. Even a grain of rice dares to shine. Tianyang smiled disdainfully and the great void sword embryo in his hand shone even brighter. The 10,000 swords returned to origin was a peerless heaven-tier martial technique, and the first move of a Saint martial technique. Although it was the weakest move in Tianxiao Great World, it was the best of the best. Tianyang's current cultivation was even stronger than the Lunar Mountain sect masters. The 10,000 poisons god-destroying palm wanted to block Tianyang's sword. It was simply nonsense. Break! Tianyang roared, and his true yuan surged out. The light released by the sword light seemed to be able to pierce through 10,000 mountains and rivers. In front of this sword that was like the descent of a saint, the 10,000 poisons god-destroying palm print. The 10,000 poisons nether flame was extinguished, and the 10,000 poisons god-destroying palm print was broken. The Lunar Mountain sect master's body flew out like a cannonball. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and all the bones in his body were broken into powder. The sword chi rushed into his body and rampaged through it. Not long after, the 10,000 poisons body that had been passed down for 100,000 years suffered a terrifying injury that had never been seen before. Damn it! I didn't even use the 10,000 poisons body against the Tianji Sword Emperor, but I actually lost to a brat like you. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. The Lunar Mountain sect master smashed through several giant mountains and spat out a few mouthfuls of black blood. When the blood fell to the ground, even the ground was corroded into a deep abyss. Even an expert of the same level as the Lunar Mountain sect master had to be careful when dealing with such terrifying corrosive power. However, it was useless in front of Tianyang. Just that sword that was like the descent of the heavens was enough to disperse his poison gas. So what if it's been passed down for 100,000 years? It's a mistake to gather all your foundation on an inhumane product, Tianyang said indifferently. Killing intent surged in his eyes as he took a step forward. With just one step, he crossed the void and arrived in front of the Lunar Mountain sect master. At this moment, Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. He looked at the dark purple 10,000 poisons netherworld flame burning on the Lunar Mountain sect master's body. His eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 736. How about letting me devour your flame? Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, the sect master's face immediately turned cold. He angrily said to Tianyang, "A warrior can be killed, but not humiliated. Even if the winner is king and the loser is a bandit, you're going too far." In the Heavenly Een Mountain sect master's eyes, Heavenly Sun was clearly making fun of him. Although there was no limit to the number of spirit flames a person could possess, generally speaking, a person could only control one at most. Those who could control 2 or more spirit flames were all existences who had great accomplishments in the Tao of Fire. Tianyang was only at the peak of the 7th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. At most, he was powerful in the Tao of Sword and extraordinary in the Tao of Martial. How could that be? However, although the actual situation was slightly different, Tianyang was indeed not that good in the Tao of Fire. He knew a bit about the Tao of Lightning. As for the Tao of Fire, he really didn't know anything about it. In his previous life, he couldn't control a second spirit flame. Besides not encountering it, his own Tao of Fire cultivation was also one of the reasons. However, the present was different from the past. Although Tianyang's Tao of Fire cultivation wasn't strong, this didn't mean that Tianyang couldn't absorb a third spirit flame. Don't forget how the Bewley heavenly flames were absorbed by the heavenly sun. A warrior can be killed, but not humiliated? Tianyang smiled faintly. The great void sword embryo in his hand flickered with a dangerous light. Then, hand over the 10,000 poison Hades flame, and you can die quickly. If you don't, I'll cripple your cultivation first, then throw you into the volcano pond. I'll feed you some low-grade pills to barely survive, then throw you into the 10,000 poison pond to temper your body again. Then, I'll search your soul and find your 10,000 poison Hades flame to devour. Which one do you think is better? Tianyang narrowed his eyes and said, this wasn't just a verbal threat. If the sect master really didn't know how to appreciate favors and insisted on not handing over the 10,000 poison Hades flame. Then Tianyang really didn't mind letting the sect master undergo the tempering process of the 10,000 poison body. You, the heavenly Een Mountain's sect master shuddered. He looked at Tianyang as if he was looking at a demon. His entire body trembled. As the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain, he was naturally well aware of the horror of being tempered by 10,000 poisons. That kind of pain was enough to drive a Heaven Ascension stage expert insane. Otherwise, 100,000 years ago, the heavenly Een Mountain would not have sacrificed the lives of 5 million young boys and girls to refine the 10,000 poison body. But now, the myriad poison body was unable to bring out its full potential. On the fourth attempt, it was nearly crippled. As for the terror of being tempered by 10,000 poisons, even the heavenly Een Mountain's sect master, who had a cultivation base of heaven completion stage 4, did not dare to try it again. What's more, Tianyang wanted to cripple his cultivation base. If that was the case, he wished he could die immediately. What? Have you made up your mind? In any case, whether you hand it over or not, I have a way. At most, I'll sacrifice all of your heavenly Een Mountain people and create a blood soul demonic fire. Tianyang narrowed his eyes and smiled. Hearing this, the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain trembled even more. As the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain's dark world, how could he not have heard of the blood soul demonic fire? It was an extremely primitive and cruel spiritual fire. It used a blood sacrifice method from ancient times to forcefully extract a person's blood and turn it into a demonic fire. Moreover, the efficiency was extremely low. Thinking about how his subordinates and himself would not only have to endure the pain of being tempered by 10,000 poisons, but also be sacrificed into a trash blood soul demonic fire, the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain trembled violently. Death was not scary, but the scariest thing was to die without any value. Turning into a pile of dirt after death was not bad, but turning into a trash flame was truly worthless to the extreme. No, I'm willing. I'm willing to hand it over. Finally, under the pressure of both his mind and body, the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain could only submit in the end. After all, he was at least a king of the dark world. He was born extraordinary. If he died like this without anyone knowing, like trash, his reputation would be ruined for the rest of his life. In comparison, since he would die sooner or later, he might as well hand over the 10,000 poisons nether flame that was of little use to him. Moreover, the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain had another plan in mind. The 10,000 poisons nether flame was a level 5 spirit fire, and a peak level 5 spirit fire at that. Its nature could be said to be the most unruly of all level 5 spirit fires. This 10,000 poisons nether flame had been captured by the previous sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain. It had taken several hundred years to completely tame it and be refined by the current sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain. The 10,000 poisons nether flame was already unruly to begin with, and it had been captured and tamed by the heavenly Een Mountain. If Tianyang rashly swallowed it, the 10,000 poisons nether flame might directly explode with its terrifying poison gas and kill Tianyang directly. Then, he would still be the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain who commanded the entire dark world. This is the 10,000 poisons nether flame. Please take a look. After a while, the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain took out his 10,000 poisons nether flame and reluctantly severed the connection between himself and the 10,000 poisons nether flame. Sensing that the connection between itself and the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain had been severed, the 10,000 poisons nether flame instantly went berserk. The flame was dazzling, and an endless amount of poison gas was released. However, Tianyang only chuckled and took the 10,000 poisons nether flame. How could he not see through the sect master of the heavenly Een Mountain scheme? However, he didn't care. At this moment, he had absolute confidence that he could devour the 10,000 poisons nether flame. The divine desolate heavenly spirit technique had just awakened a terrifying divine ability with his breakthrough. Now, he only needed to devour one more spirit fire to activate it. And because of the divine desolate heavenly spirit technique, he was almost certain to succeed this time. Annihilating heavenly flame, go. Ignoring the sect master of the heavenly mountain who had already lost his ability to fight, Tianyang walked to the side and sat cross-legged on the ground. He held the purplish-black 10,000 poisons nether flame in his left hand and the annihilating heavenly flame in his right. The moment the two spirit fires appeared at the same time, the surrounding air seemed to have risen by several degrees. The heavenly mountain, which was originally very eerie due to the excessive death aura, also dissipated some of its eeriness. Close, Tianyang shouted softly. His two hands instantly closed in, and the 10,000 poisons nether flame also began to go berserk. Seeing this, the sect master of the heavenly mountain was overjoyed. Quick, quick, close up, hurry up and kill yourself. How is it possible for the spirit fires to fuse? You brat who's still wet behind the ears, wait for your death. The sect master of the heavenly mountain shouted crazily in his heart. In the next moment, the 10,000 poisons nether flame finally broke through the restrictions of Tianyang's palm and erupted with 100,000 feet of Xinguang. In the next moment, it fused with the annihilating heavenly flame. Tianyang's aura also suddenly skyrocketed. In between his hands, the two spirit fires completely fused into one. For words suddenly appeared in Tianyang's mind. 10,000 divine flame. Chapter 737. 10,000 divine flame. Following the appearance of these four ancient words, a huge amount of mysterious information surged into Tianyang's mind. At this moment, Tianyang's eyes suddenly released a dazzling light. How many more secrets does my divine desolate heaven spirit art have? Tianyang's eyes flickered as he quickly digested and absorbed the mysterious information. This divine desolate heavenly spirit art was clearly created by him. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be anything unexpected. However, since the last time he swallowed the blazing heavenly flames and transformed the annihilation spiritual fire into the annihilation heavenly flames, the divine desolate heaven spirit art had revealed its extraordinariness. And now, such a divine ability had appeared. In my previous life, I only had incomplete, naturally terminated meridians. Compared to complete meridians, I was still lacking a little bit. Could it be that this little bit made up for the imperfection of the divine desolate heaven spirit art? Tianyang muttered to himself as questions arose in his mind. The divine desolate heaven spirit art was created by him, but it had a remarkable ability that even he did not know about. As for the naturally terminated meridians, there seemed to be an additional layer of mystery. It seemed that it was not simple. However, now is the time to activate it. Let's cultivate first. Tianyang smiled slightly. The temporary fusion of the annihilation heavenly flames and the 10,000 poison hellfire in his hand suddenly exploded with endless flames. The 10,000 divine flame was a remarkable ability and was completely different from ordinary martial skills. The 10,000 divine flame was an ultimate remarkable ability that could swallow thousands of spiritual fires and transform them into a powerful flame. The annihilation heavenly flames from before was triggered by the 10,000 divine flame by chance. Now, after swallowing the third spiritual fire, this remarkable ability had finally appeared. I see. Swallowing countless flames into one and fusing them into one. TSK, TSK. Even a Fire Emperor would not dare to do it. Tianyang exclaimed in admiration. Then he formed seals with his hands and began to operate it. The 10,000 divine flame merged all the flames in the universe. Seal of 10,000 divine flame, heaven melting fire. Tianyang formed a seal with both hands. The extremely mysterious and powerful seals immediately rushed into the two flames. The next moment, the two flames suddenly changed. At this moment, the black gold and purplish black that were clearly separated from each other seemed to have started to fuse together. As Tianyang continued to form seals, this fusion became more and more obvious. What kind of divine ability is this? The Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master roared in disbelief as he watched the two spiritual fires gradually merge under Tianyang's control. Spiritual flames were wild and untamed, and the 10,000 Poisons netherworld flame was even more outstanding among spiritual flames. In the eyes of the Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master, the fact that the 10,000 Poison netherworld flame didn't directly poison Tianyang to death was already Tianyang's luck. How could Tianyang really swallow it? However, in the eyes of the Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master, the myriad poison hellfire that he did not even dare to use after refining was like a docile kitten in Tianyang's hands. This huge contrast caused the Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master to lose his composure. Sir, this technique, even Sanguinati was shocked. This technique was far beyond his imagination. No matter what, the method of fusing two spiritual fires into one was too shocking. Sanguinati did not know that the Heavenly Annihilation Flame was the product of Tianyang fusing two spiritual fires. If he knew, he would definitely be even more shocked. At this moment, Tianyang finally formed the last seal and sent it into the two flames. Boom! The two flames had completely fused together at this moment. The surging poisonous gas and terrifying destructive power crazily spread out in all directions. This kind of power was countless times stronger than when the Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master had used it. Even Sanguinati's expression changed drastically. He could not bear it and retreated a few steps. The other corpses on the ground also disintegrated when they came into contact with this invisible wave. If poison was the power of the void, then the destructive power was the power of the real. The combination of the void and the real exploded with a terrifying power that could almost crush this side of the Heavenly Ean Mountain. It's over. My Heavenly Ean Mountain is finished. The Heavenly Ean Mountain sect master collapsed on the ground, his eyes gradually covered with a layer of gray. Even his final technique could not do anything to Tianyang. What could the current Heavenly Ean Mountain use to resist Tianyang? Sanguinati looked at Tianyang in admiration. The Heavenly Ean Mountain had been passed down from 100,000 years ago. Countless experts wanted to destroy it. However, not a single one succeeded. The best was when Tianyang destroyed the headquarters of the Heavenly Ean Mountain in his previous life. However, because the 10,000 poison body was still there, the Heavenly Ean Mountain quickly developed again. If Tianyang did not appear, the Heavenly Ean Mountain might have been able to dominate for another 1,000 or 10,000 years with the strength of the 10,000 poison body. Unfortunately, it was all over. Boom! It had already turned into a purple gold flame that burned fiercely on Tianyang's body. Tianyang's expression also became serious. The 10,000 elephant divine flame only gave him a way to fuse with it. If he wanted to use it, he still had to absorb it himself. The purple gold flame burned fiercely. At this moment, the Heavenly Annihilation Flame could no longer be called that. The flame at this moment was at least the 6th level, which was the level of the Ascension Realm. There were no more than 5 records of this kind of flame in the Heaven Continent. Even the Crimson Dragon Wuzun, who was at the Wuzun Realm, had never seen it before. Phew! Tianyang took a deep breath and the aura in his body gradually calmed down. In the next moment, he released the devouring Heaven Seal. An endless black vortex appeared in front of Tianyang. The purple gold flame's origin flame was also swallowed by Tianyang into his body. Refine! Tianyang roared at the sky, his voice billowing out, causing the entire mountain range to tremble. As for the purple gold flames, after entering Tianyang's body, they began to crazily counterattack. His blood evaporated and was replaced by the blood created by the Divine Dragon's Dragon Force. His body was dried up, but his true core was replenished. His heart beat again and again. The Divine Dragon's Dragon Core was formed in his heart, which also represented Tianyang's heart. It was far superior to those of the same level. Devouring spiritual fire is indeed not something a human should do. Tianyang clenched his teeth and allowed his flesh and blood to dry up again and again. However, under this withering, The purple gold flame was fusing into Tianyang's body bit by bit. Devouring spiritual fire could only be described in one word: endure. As the devouring heaven seal continued to circulate, Tianyang's expression gradually turned ugly. His soul power gathered and turned into a seal that charged fiercely toward the purple gold flame. Devour! Tianyang roared. The purple gold flame suddenly shrank, and the soul brand was branded on it. Boom! The purple gold flame was branded with the soul brand and poured into Tianyang's dantian, turning into Tianyang's flame. However, this time the flame was no longer purple gold. Instead, it revealed a hint of black, deeper than the black gold annihilation heavenly flame from before. Poison and annihilation belong to the same category of destruction. This thing almost killed me. Chapter 738. True Flames of Destruction. The moment he said this name, a black flame appeared on Tianyang's fingertip. Tianyang casually threw it. That true flames of destruction immediately fell into a mountain forest. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain forest turned into ashes. This power, the heavenly Een Mountain sect master was dumbfounded. That mountain forest was not an ordinary mountain forest. It was a mountain forest that their heavenly Een Mountain used to cultivate ferocious beasts and spirit herbs. The strongest of the ferocious beasts even had the battle strength of a spirit sea realm cultivator. Those spirit herbs were also incomparably tough. Even if he took action, he might not be able to completely clear that mountain forest. In the end, Tianyang flicked his finger. That mountain forest was destroyed in an instant. All right, you kept your promise. Then, you could go to the Western Paradise. Tianyang smiled faintly. It's all thanks to your insanity. The explosion of the 10,000 poison netherworld flame almost killed the entire mountain. It saved me the trouble of finding and killing them one by one. Hearing this, the heavenly Een Mountain sect master's pupils constricted. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to explain something. However, Tianyang's eyes suddenly turned cold. The true flames of destruction rushed out and directly ignited the heavenly Een Mountain sect master's body, burning him to ashes. The power of a level 6 spirit fire was enough to allow a Heaven Ascension Realm cultivator to crush another person of the same level. This guy seems to want to clear his name. Sanguinati walked over and smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded lightly. All right, now the grudge is over. This heavenly Een Mountain doesn't need to exist anymore. Tianyang took 3 steps, but his figure was 10,000 miles high in the sky. He looked down at the giant mountain that was surrounded by eerie death, chi, and poison gas. Only a few heavenly Een Mountain disciples were hiding in the corner, trembling. Across the void, he punched out. Void Emperor's Fist. The power of a low-grade Heaven Tier fist technique was fully displayed at this moment. That huge fist mark directly exploded the space and blasted onto the heavenly Een Mountain. Heavenly Een Mountain's entire mountain was trembling. The mountain protection formation was operating with all its might, but unfortunately, it was still easily destroyed by this fist. Immediately after, the entire heavenly Een Mountain was shattered into countless rocks. The eerie death chi was also burned into nothingness by the true flames of destruction. The entire heavenly Een Mountain no longer had any life force. The largest pieces of ruins had been arranged into 2 characters by the heavenly Sun. Let's go, Tianyang said indifferently. He quietly released 40% of his soul power, and his cultivation dropped back to peak 7th level of Sea of Soul Realm. Subsequently, he summoned the Heaven Yuan Tower, walked in, and left, leaving this mountain without any life. The continent's land. It wasn't until half a month after Tianyang and the Bloodsword ruler left that someone stepped into the Heavenly Een Mountain's headquarters and discovered the shocking situation. Heavenly Een Mountain sect's headquarters had been reduced to rubble. The huge mountain that had been passed down for 100,000 years had turned into nothingness. The entire Heavenly Een Mountain, including the sect leader and vice-sect leader, as well as countless venerables, elders, and ghost generals, had all died. There were also countless disciples, assassins, death warriors, and so on. Almost 90% of Heavenly Een Mountain's strength had disappeared. Along with Heavenly Een Mountain's huge mountain, it had disappeared. Heavenly Een Mountain destroyed? In the center of the desolate beast region, in a palace, a beautiful woman retracted her gaze and looked at the messenger in disbelief. It's not confirmed yet. No one has found those people's corpses. We only know that Heavenly Een Mountain's inheritance mountain has been completely shattered. However, according to this old servant speculations, it should have been destroyed. The messenger said respectfully. Hearing this, a teardrop fell from the corner of the beautiful woman's eyes. Destroyed. It's definitely destroyed. I knew that Master wouldn't let Heavenly Een Mountain exist for so long. The beautiful woman said emotionally, her hands trembling. Seeing this, the messenger's expression changed greatly. Princess, princess, what's wrong? Nothing. Let's go, lead the way. I want to go to the Demon King Palace. The beautiful woman stood up and said firmly. Hearing this, the messenger's expression changed again. He hurriedly said, Princess, wait. One had to know that since this beautiful woman came to the desolate beast region 5 months ago, she had been silently cultivating in this palace and had never taken a step out. But now she wanted to go out? What was the relationship between Heavenly Een Mountain and the princess? It actually made the princess like this. I'm fine. The beautiful woman smiled. At the same time, she stroked her hair, and her hair fell down like a waterfall. Seeing this, even if the messenger was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. It's just that I have to show my best side to that person. Ling Yuhan smiled. My, F***CK? No wonder Big Brother Tianyang wanted to target Heavenly Een Mountain in the Earth Emperor Small World. So it was because of this. Now that Heavenly Een Mountain is destroyed, those old monsters are staying at home and not making a move. If it's not my big brother, who else can it be? Big Brother is awesome. Big Brother Tianyang is awesome. You guys even said that I, the young master of the Flying Sword Sect, was disgracing the Flying Sword Sect by acknowledging a guy who isn't even my age as my big brother. Now look, is my big brother so awesome? Disgracing? I've disgraced all of you. Give me a big brother who can destroy Heavenly Een Mountain to see? In the Flying Sword Sect, in the sect master's residence, a young man in a white robe who looked extremely sage-like stood up. He didn't care that he was in a meeting in front of all the elders of the sect and waved his hands excitedly. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. They were all speechless. In the end, only a servant next to Yu Jian Chun stood up and trembled. Sect Master, please be more dignified. East Sea Dragon Palace. Long Taiji, the Dragon King, and the elders of the Dragon Clan looked at the information in their hands, speechless. These people were all chosen after the purge of the East Sea Dragon Palace. They were very convinced by Long Taiji, but they had some complaints about the Dragon King giving away the Dragon Emperor's decree. But now, these people's faces were as ugly as if they had eaten shit. On the Dragon King throne, the Dragon King laughed heartily as he looked at the elders in front of him. My dear ministers, what do you think? Is this king's move good? The Star Swordplay sect, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Flying Sword sect, the Sun Moon sect, and so on. Those who were related to Tianyang were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Even Jun Tianyi, who was at LV1 of the Heaven Ascension realm, was shocked. It was hard to believe that Tianyang was so strong. As for the leaders of the sacred grounds, they were also shocked. The Heavenly Een Mountain, which had been passed down for 100,000 years, was destroyed by a young boy. Instantly, Tianyang became the center of attention. Unfortunately, no one was able to find Heavenly Yang. Even Long Taiji was unable to do so. In a small secret realm in the east of the central region, no one knew that Tianyang, who had shocked the entire continent, was here. Cousin, why did you call me over in such a hurry? Chapter 739. Second-rate power, Phoenix Immortal Sect. Phoenix Immortal Sect was merely a second-rate power. Their strongest expert was only a Spirit King expert who had barely reached the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. If not for Tianyang's cousin, Tian Qianqian, being here, Tianyang wouldn't even have come here. Speaking of which, Qianqian should be doing well in Phoenix Immortal Sect. Why did she suddenly call me over today? Tianyang slowly walked to the northernmost part of the big city. This big city was called Phoenix City, and the northernmost part of Phoenix City was where Phoenix Immortal Sect was located. Arriving here, everything in the surroundings seemed to be far away. In the center of Phoenix City, where every inch of land was worth an inch of gold, there was a huge space with a radius of 10 li. Take note, this was only an empty space. The empty space between Phoenix Immortal Sect and Phoenix City had a radius of 10 li. As for Phoenix Immortal Sect itself, the area it occupied was even larger. Behind it was the most famous spirit mountain Immortal Mansion, the place where heaven and earth spirit Qi gathered, Phoenix Mountain Range. Phoenix Immortal Sect was located in Phoenix Mountain Range, but there were also outer sect members in Phoenix City. Halt! Just as Tianyang arrived at the entrance of Phoenix Mountain Range, a shout came from the side. Immediately, 2 guards rushed out from both sides and blocked in front of Tianyang. This is an important place of Phoenix Immortal Sect. Unrelated people, quickly leave. One of them held a long spear and stared at Tianyang with his clean and beautiful eyes. The hand holding the long spear trembled slightly. Seeing this, Tianyang was slightly surprised. This Phoenix Immortal Sect was really a female sect. Even the guards of the mountain gate were female. However, their cultivation was only at the peak of the origin transformation realm. With this cultivation, Tianyang could cross the blockade with a single step. However, Tianyang didn't mind. I'm here to look for Phoenix Immortal Sect's inner sect disciple, Tian Qianqian. Go and inform her. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, the 2 guards were slightly stunned. Then, they respectfully nodded their heads. They were only outer sect disciples of the Phoenix Goddess sect. Furthermore, they were the servant disciples with the lowest status among the outer sect disciples. Naturally, it was impossible for them to come into contact with inner sect disciples. To them, inner disciples were unreachable existences. Even though they were supposed to be inner sect guards, everyone knew that they were in charge of protecting the inner sect. Wouldn't it be a joke for the 2 of them, who were only at the peak of the transformation realm, to guard the mountain gate? Please wait a moment. One of the guards hurriedly walked in, while the other said respectfully. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly and stood in place, waiting. Walking in the Huangluo mountain range, Tianyang looked at the unique female style of the buildings around him and clicked his tongue in wonder. Phoenixes were actually 2 types of divine birds. However, due to the fact that they were often referred to together in ancient records, they had always been called phoenixes. Among them, the phoenix was yang, and the phoenix was yin. They corresponded to the men and women of a human race. Although the Phoenix Goddess sect was a female sect, it was named Feng because of this. Otherwise, if there were too many females, the yin qi would already be too heavy. If the word phoenix was added, although there would not be any harm, there would definitely be no benefits. Being named Feng could at least suppress the fate of the sect. As for the other sects, they already had both males and females. Naturally, they did not need the word phoenix. The inner sect of the Phoenix Goddess sect rarely has males. In the 2 years that we have been guards, we have never seen a single male enter. You're the first one. A slightly respectful voice sounded. It was the young lady who was leading the way beside Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Not seeing a single male in 2 years. This Phoenix Goddess sect was really something. However, Tianyang did not care much about it. That is where senior sister Tian Qianqian is. I'm only an outer sect disciple. I can only lead you here. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave. The young lady smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Then, he looked at the ordinary, independent courtyard. The environment was not bad. Tianyang nodded and walked over. At this time, a sharp and piercing voice of mockery sounded from inside. As expected, our great genius from the Northern Wilderness region is still at the same place. It has been 3 months since the last competition. You still haven't passed the 3rd tribulation of the flames of Tao. Such talent is indeed trash. No wonder you are a country bumpkin from the Northern Wilderness region. In the courtyard, a lady with delicate features and a sickly pale face looked at Tian Chantian mockingly. TSK, TSK, you're almost 20 years old, and you still don't have a man. Although our Phoenix Goddess sect is a female sect, we do not restrict relationships between males and females. You're not young anymore. Why are you still like this? All right, don't tell me you are hiding him. Ha ha, let me tell you. My man is a disciple of the Mountain River sect, a first-rate force. Even if there were 100 of you, you would still be far from him. The lady had a mocking look on her face as she spoke arrogantly. On the opposite side, Tian Chantian lowered her head and bit her lips. No one knew what she was thinking. Seeing that Tian Chantian did not retort, the lady laughed maniacally and became even more arrogant. So, you should not be living in the Phoenix Goddess sect. You should go back to your poor village in the northern wilderness region as soon as possible. I heard that the northern wilderness region seems to have encountered some changes. This is a good chance for you to go back. Scram. The lady continued to mock. Hearing that, Tian Chantian finally raised her head and said angrily, I will not allow you to talk about my hometown like that. The aura of a level 2 peak of the Tao Fire Realm was released. Hearing that, the lady's expression changed. She was furious. How dare you talk to me like that? Are you trying to rebel? The lady snorted. Her level 3 true origin condensed and broke through Tian Chantian's true origin aura. She raised her hand and slapped Tian Chantian's face. Have you said enough? An indifferent voice came from the side. Tianyang grabbed the lady's hand with his right hand. His eyes were cold. At this moment, Tian Chantian was stunned. She turned around and looked at Tianyang. She was so happy that she cried, Cousin, cousin? No wonder a man can enter my Phoenix Goddess sect. So it's because of Tian Chantian. The lady's expression changed. Her serious expression quickly turned into a mocking smile. However, I still advise you to let go. Otherwise, just wait for your death. What if I don't let go? Tianyang said indifferently. Hearing that, the lady's expression darkened. Her true origin surged. You must know that this is the Phoenix Goddess sect. It's not a place for a country bumpkin like you to behave atrociously. In the next moment, the lady condensed a thin, true origin sword. She waved her left hand and stabbed at Tianyang. Seeing that, Tianyang smiled faintly and exhaled lightly. His level 8 C of Soul Realm aura was released. The thin, true origin sword was instantly shattered. At this moment, Tianyang also freed his left hand and slapped out. Pa! The lady's body was like a kite with a broken string. She was sent flying by Tianyang. Blood spurted from her mouth, and she heavily crashed into the wall of the courtyard. Why don't you take a piss and look at your reflection? Do you have the right to be arrogant in front of me? Chapter 740. Do you think you have the right to be arrogant in front of me? Tianyang spoke indifferently. His expression was extremely calm, as if the person who was sent flying was not an inner court elite disciple, but a piece of trash that was about to be thrown into the trash bin. Hearing these words, Tian Chantian's entire body shook, revealing a touched expression. In the Phoenix Goddess sect, due to Tian Chantian's humble background, she could be ranked above average even among the inner disciples of the Phoenix Goddess sect. However, she was still looked down upon by countless people. Over time, she developed a character that did not fight back when hit or scolded. Because, in the Phoenix Immortal sect, she was always alone. But now, she was no longer alone. You. Although Tianyang's slap was loud, it was not too heavy. Otherwise, the girl would have smashed through the wall and died. However, at this moment, the girl was embedded in the wall in a comical manner. Her luxurious clothes were dyed red with blood, and her entire person was furious to the extreme. You actually dared to hit me. You actually dared to hit me. Yi Ching Ching in the Phoenix Immortal sect. The girl shrieked. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned. Not to mention an inner disciple of the Phoenix Immortal sect. Even if he slaughtered the entire Phoenix Immortal sect, the sect master of the Phoenix Immortal sect would not dare to say anything. Although this long-haired and short-sighted guy might not recognize him, Tianyang was really unhappy that he dared to be so arrogant after hitting his own cousin. I'm the last disciple of the 13th elder of the Phoenix Immortal Sect. My fiancé is the eldest disciple of the Mountain River Sect, a genius at the peak of the 3rd level of the Sea of Soul Realm. You came from a trash place like the Northern Wilderness region, just like Tian Qianqian. You actually dared to hit me. The girl seemed to have lost her mind as she screamed crazily. Then, her expression turned cold. Just you wait. Tian Qianqian, you're lucky to have a good cousin. Now, you're finally going to scram. Your cousin is also going to die in my Phoenix Immortal Sect's law enforcement hall. Yi Qingqing screamed, then channeled her true essence, shattered the wall behind her, and hurriedly ran away. Hearing this, Tian Qianqian's face turned pale. She did not care if she would be expelled from the Phoenix Goddess Sect. However, if Tianyang really died in the Phoenix Goddess Sect, if that was the case, she would never be able to forgive herself. Cousin, I know a secret passage that can lead us out of Huangluo mountain range. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, the law enforcement hall won't be easy to pass. Yi Qingqing's teacher is the 13th elder of our Phoenix Cry sect and has a cultivation base of the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. Moreover, Yi Qingqing herself is the daughter of the leader of the Phoenix Immortal Sect, a 6th level Sea of Soul Realm Spirit King. Cousin, you slapped her. She definitely won't let it go. Tian Qianqian anxiously asked. Hearing this, Tian Yang smiled faintly and sat down in the pavilion in the courtyard, crossing his legs and nonchalantly saying, if she really dares to not let this matter rest, then let her come. What? Phoenix Immortal Sect, Law Enforcement Hall. The 13th elder of the Phoenix Immortal Sect was also the law enforcement elder of the Law Enforcement Hall. At this moment, the 13th elder looked at the battered and exhausted last disciple with a huge palm print on her face. She almost smashed the office desk that she had used for several years. That Tian Qianqian, how dare you? You actually let a man step into my Phoenix Immortal Sect and even hit you. A guy from the Northern Desolate region actually dares to be arrogant in my Phoenix Immortal Sect. This is the Phoenix Immortal Sect. If you don't act arrogantly, who would dare? The 13th elder roared. Hearing this, Yi Qingqing, who had purposely tripped twice to create a battered and exhausted image, immediately revealed a trace of a complacent smile. The 13th elder is already so angry. Tian Qianqian, just wait for your death. Let's go. Cousin, it's true. The 13th elder is really not to be trifled with. She has the cultivation of the 3rd level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Although she can't compare to Yi Qingqing's fiancé, she is still terrifyingly strong. Although you know the Sun Moon Sect's young master, Junaoyang, the mountain is high and the emperor is far away. He won't be able to protect you. So, hurry up and leave. I'll stay behind to hold them back. Tian Qianqian looked at Tianyang, who was sitting calmly, and tried to persuade him while circling around. Hearing this, Tianyang's lips curled up. That guy, Junaoyang, would protect him? Speaking of which, it had been a long time since he had seen Junaoyang. He didn't have the chance to meet him in the earthly emperor's small world either. Just as Tian Qianqian was about to continue persuading, a thunderous roar came from afar. Who hit this seat's last disciple? Hurry up and come out to die. As soon as the voice fell, a 3rd level Sea of Soul Realm aura burst out, almost shattering the small pavilion. In the nearby courtyards, a few heads popped out. This voice, it's the 13th elder. The 13th elder is actually so angry. The 13th elder's disciple is Yi Qingqing, right? Recently, Yi Qingqing seems to have changed her target. It's Tian Qianqian. Looking at the direction the 13th elder is flying, it's Tian Qianqian's courtyard. It can't be that Tian Qianqian couldn't help but hit Yi Qingqing, right? It's over for Tian Qianqian. A group of disciples discussed. Hurry up and go take a look. It's not easy to see an elder make a move. Even if it's killing Tian Qianqian, it's still the same. Tian Qianqian's death has nothing to do with me. But if a Sea of Soul Realm expert makes a move, then we have to see. A voice rang out, immediately receiving a response from a group of Phoenix Goddess Sect disciples. They all stood up and followed the 13th elder from afar. rushing towards Tian Chanchan's courtyard. At this moment, two gusts of wind blew through the courtyard. The 13th Elder and Yi Qingqing also appeared in Tian Chanchan's courtyard. Seeing the two appear, Tian Chanchan's expression changed greatly, and she hastily said, "13th Elder, shut up. A country bumpkin from the northern wilderness region wants to talk to this seat. Call out the guy who dared to hit this seat's disciple." The 13th Elder coldly snorted and released the aura of a third-level sea of soul realm expert, directly rushing towards Tian Chanchan. Seeing this, Tian Chanchan's beautiful face turned pale. But the strange thing was this aura disintegrated the moment it came in contact with Tian Chanchan's skin. "I'm sitting right here. Can't you see me? You'd better change to a pair of dog eyes," Tianyang indifferently said. Hearing this, Yi Qingqing and the 13th Elder looked over and immediately saw Tianyang sitting in the pavilion with his legs crossed. "It's him. It's him. He's the one who hit me," Yi Qingqing shrieked. Hearing this, the 13th Elder's expression suddenly turned gloomy as he looked at Tianyang. "You!" At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared and blocked the 13th Elder's path. The 13th Elder's expression suddenly changed. "Master." However, that figure didn't pay any attention to the 13th Elder. Instead, he took 2 steps forward, cupped his fists, and respectfully bowed 90 degrees. "I didn't expect Lord Tianyang to visit our sect. Our sect is honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to welcome you," the sect leader of the Phoenix Immortal Sect said respectfully, after which she turned around and looked at the two people behind her. "Yi Qingqing and the 13th Elder? Why are you here? Oh, you're also here to pay respects to Lord Tianyang, right? You didn't even tell me when you received the news. Forget it, I'll let you off this time. Why aren't you here to pay respects to Lord Sword King?" Chapter 741. Sect Leader, what did you say? 13th Elder was stupefied as she looked at the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader, who was bowing before her in disbelief. In her eyes, the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader was an indomitable existence, a 6th-level sea of Soul Realm Spirit King. She could crush her to death with just a lift of her hand. However, such an existence was actually so respectful to a youngster who was at most 19 or 20 years old. Didn't you hear? Come and meet Lord Sword King." The Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader was a charming and beautiful woman. She frowned slightly and looked at 13th Elder doubtfully. "Meet me?" Hearing the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader use such a term, 13th Elder was stupefied. She then shook her head and hurriedly said, "Sect Leader, don't be fooled by this brat. This brat is only the cousin of a disciple from the Northern Wilderness region. He's definitely not a disciple from some big power in the Central region. What you're doing is insulting the dignity of our Phoenix Immortal Sect." 13th Elder said loudly and looked hopefully at the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader. She hoped that the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader could mend her ways. However, after hearing 13th Elder's words, the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader's expression changed slightly. She didn't say anything to 13th Elder. Instead, she hurriedly turned her head and said respectfully to Tianyang, "Lord Sword King, what happened?" Hearing this, Tianyang faintly smiled. "I'm not too sure about this. If you have any questions, you can ask my cousin." As he spoke, Tianyang pointed at Tian Chanchan. Seeing Tianyang's casual behavior and that he didn't even put down his crossed legs, 13th Elder's body trembled. A bad premonition emerged in her heart. As expected, hearing this, the Phoenix Immortal Sect Leader's expression turned gloomy. She hurriedly walked in front of Tian Chanchan and asked a few questions. Tian Chanchan also replied truthfully. She described the entire matter very clearly without adding any details, leaving 13th Elder unable to refute. However, at this moment, Yi Qingqing suddenly trembled. "No, it's not like this. How could Tian Chanchan, who came from the Northern Wilderness region, have such a powerful cousin? It's fake. It was all fake. Sect Master, don't be deceived," Yi Qingqing shrieked. Hearing this, the Phoenix Immortal Sect Master did not need to ask the 13th Elder anymore. Her expression suddenly turned extremely ugly as she sent out a slap. Scram! Pa! A huge palm print appeared on the left side of Yi Qingqing's face where the palm print had just disappeared. Her entire face looked like it was about to rot. Wow! Yi Qingqing spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. There was also the faint sound of several hard objects falling to the ground. Yi Qingqing looked down, and her expression changed greatly. He had actually spat out a few teeth. You kneel. Apologize to the Sword King. The sect master of the Phoenix Spirit sect walked in front of Yi Qingqing and bellowed. Hearing this, Yi Qingqing trembled as if she had been struck by lightning. Then she cried, "No, Andy, you can't do this. If I kneel, how am I going to face others in the Phoenix Immortal sect?" And, hearing this, Tian Qianqian stared blankly for a moment. Then, she understood that Yi Qingqing was indeed not the daughter of the Phoenix Immortal sect master. However, they were still related. This Phoenix Immortal sect master, who seemed to be filled with righteous indignation and wanted to uphold justice for the world, was, in fact, just a person who indulged her own relatives to be arrogant and despotic. Don't say that I'm your aunt. Even if I were your mother, you would still have to kneel. The Phoenix Immortal sect master bellowed. She released her 6th level C of Soul Realm Zhen Yuan pressure and pressed down on Yi Qingqing's body. Yi Qingqing's expression changed greatly as her knees went soft, and she directly knelt down. However, after dealing with Yi Qingqing, the Phoenix Immortal sect master still did not stop. Instead, she turned to the 13th elder and said, "13th elder, you too." Hearing this, the 13th elder's expression changed greatly as he said furiously, "Sect master, you've gone too far. No matter how powerful this kid's background is, you can't treat my Phoenix Immortal sect's disciple like this. If you do this, the entire Phoenix Immortal sect will be bitterly disappointed." Hearing this, the Phoenix Immortal sect master stared blankly for a moment and seemed to loosen up a little. However, when she caught a glimpse of Tianyang's face that still carried a slight sneer, she immediately released her pressure again. The tyrannical 6th level C of Soul Realm pressure also pressed down on the 13th elder's body, just like how it treated Yi Qingqing previously. Background? Lord Sword King doesn't have any background. His origin is just like what you said, a mere northern desolate region. However, did you know that a while ago, the person who uprooted the heavenly Een mountain and directly destroyed, it was this person in front of you? The Phoenix Immortal sect master bellowed furiously. Hearing this, the 13th elder's expression changed as he looked at Tianyang with astonishment. This young man, who was at most 20 years old, actually destroyed the heavenly Een mountain? The person who destroyed the heavenly Een mountain is called Tianyang. Tianyang, Tian Qianqian, Tianyang, Tian Qianqian. Ah! The 13th elder muttered a few words before his face suddenly turned deathly pale. His knees went soft, and he knelt down. Tianyang, Tian Qianqian. Weren't they the same surname? In the entire world, there weren't many people with the surname Tian. The other forces didn't even dare to slight someone called Yang. Here, he had Tianyang's real cousin, yet he still mistreated her like this? For a moment, the 13th elder even had the thought of killing Yi Qingqing. Lord Sword King, what do you think? After dealing with everything, the sect master of the Phoenix Immortal sect turned around and looked at Tianyang with incomparable respect as she said, "It's useless for me. Only my cousin is useful." Tianyang shook his head and said. Hearing this, Tian Qianqian's entire body shook and revealed a trace of emotion. The Phoenix Immortal sect master's expression also changed as she slapped Yi Qingqing's head. "What are you waiting for? Why aren't you apologizing to Tian Qianqian?" Hearing this, Yi Qingqing's expression changed drastically and revealed a trace of dissatisfaction. However, when her eyes landed on Tianyang, her entire body trembled. Then, she hurriedly prostrated herself on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. "I'm sorry." Hearing this, Tianyang squinted his eyes slightly and nodded. Then, he looked at Tian Qianqian. Qian, it's up to you how to deal with these two people, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Qian was stunned. Looking at the two people kneeling in front of her, she could only silently endure their humiliation. Her eyes revealed a trace of pity. Cousin, let them go. All right. Tianyang nodded and sighed in his heart. Qian still maintained the same attitude as when she was in Blizzard State. She was too soft-hearted. With such a character, it wouldn't be good if she stepped into the cruel world of martial arts. He would either be betrayed, killed and robbed, or be bitten by an ingrate. However, these two people were just like ants. It was fine to let them go. Although that's the case, as her cousin, I have to stand up for my cousin, Tianyang said indifferently. He stood up and walked towards Yi Qingqing. Seeing this, the Phoenix Sage Sect leader's face changed and said, Lord Sword King, don't worry, I won't kill her. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then, he stretched out his hand and pointed at Yi Qingqing's energy center. Poof! Her energy center exploded. At this moment, Tianyang turned around and summoned the Heaven Tower. He said to Qian, let's go. Okay. Qian nodded her head in a daze. Then, she walked into the Heaven Tower with Tianyang and left Phoenix Sage Sect. When the Phoenix Sage Sect leader saw the Heaven Tower leaving, she heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she looked at the 13th Elder and Yi Qingqing ferociously. The two of you kneel here. Without my permission, don't even think about moving. Then, the Phoenix Sage Sect leader also left. She needed to prepare some treasures to apologize to Tianyang. Not long after, a few Phoenix Sage Sect disciples who were watching the show finally reached Qian's courtyard. Through the gate, they were all stunned when they saw what was happening inside. Chapter 742. In the Heaven Pagoda, Tianyang and Qian sat opposite each other. Tianyang casually looked out of the window, while Qian looked at the Phoenix Goddess sect that was gradually becoming a small black dot in the sky. She was speechless. You want to go back? If you go back, the sect leader might want to take you in as her last disciple. Tianyang said. To him, the Phoenix Goddess sect was just a small sect that he could destroy with a flip of his hand. If Qian still had feelings for the Phoenix Goddess sect, it would be fine to send her back. Tianyang did not believe that the sect leader of the Phoenix Goddess sect would dare to play tricks in the dark. No, after I entered the Phoenix Goddess sect, I didn't have any friends that I could make. Instead, I met a lot of useless people. Now that I've stayed in the Phoenix Goddess sect, I haven't made any progress. If not for the few years of feelings, I would have left long ago, Qian said, and there was a look of relief in her eyes. That place allowed her to cultivate for a few years. She had done enough missions and repaid everything. So be it. Tianyang nodded and did not mind. Then, he said, why did you suddenly ask me to go to the Phoenix Goddess sect? Could it be that Yi Qingqing? Tianyang said. Hearing that, Qian's face changed slightly. Her expression became serious as she spoke slowly. A ray of anger flashed across her eyes. Cousin, you're always outside, and I can't contact you. So, you don't know what happened in the Northern Wilderness region, Qian said. Hearing that, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He felt that something was wrong, and his face turned serious. What happened? Snow Wilderness, Windy Nation, Sky Moon Nation destroyed, Qian said slowly. All the countries in the Northern Wilderness region were destroyed by the devil that suddenly appeared. Only Snowfield was left, and it was barely preserved. However, the Snowgale Nation is only there because there's something in the Snowgale Nation. If that demon achieves his goal, even the Snowgale Nation will be destroyed. Right now, the entire Northern Wilderness region has been reduced to mountains of corpses and seas of blood. The citizens of Windy Nation, Snowfield Nation, and Sky Moon Nation have all been massacred. Blood seas were formed in the capitals of the various countries, devouring the lives of the people. Therefore, in just a few months, 80% of the people in the Northern Wilderness region have died, Qian said angrily. Upon hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed. Almost slaughtered an entire region. That's right. Moreover, according to the news from the Tian family, The current devil seems to have found some clues. If he achieves his goal, I'm afraid Blizzard State will also be destroyed. When a nest is overturned, no egg can remain intact. If the Blizzard State is destroyed, my Tian family will also not be able to survive. I've also gone back once. Tian Chantian's voice gradually lowered. At this moment, Tian Chantian suddenly pulled up the clothes on her right arm. Tianyang looked over, and his pupils suddenly shrank. On Tian Chantian's jade-white arm, there was a strange expression on her face. One could tell how much damage she had suffered before she recovered. A long bloody scar was exposed in the air. Just by looking at the depth of the scar, it was likely that her arm had almost been chopped off. That devil-specific strength is not clear, but he is at least at the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm. The reason why I was so patient with Yi Qingxing was so that I could ask the Phoenix Immortal Sect's leader to help, Tian Qianqian said. Upon hearing this, Tianyang's face darkened. 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm Spirit King? The Northern Wilderness region was the northernmost border region of the continent. The spirit chi was thin, and there were very few talents. Apart from a Northern Wilderness secret realm, which was a little special, there was nothing else that could be praised. There was actually a 5th level Sea of Soul Realm Spirit King there. It should be known that Sea of Soul Realm experts had extremely strict requirements for the amount of spirit chi of heaven and earth. If they stayed in a place with thin spirit chi for too long, the true yuan in their dantian might even dissipate. This was also the reason why Sea of Soul Realm experts were so persistent in searching for heavenly abodes. In a place like the Northern Wilderness region, where the spirit chi of heaven and earth was extremely thin, there was actually a spirit king? There's a big secret behind this. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He immediately stood up and looked at Tian Chantian. How's your injury? Hearing this, Tian Chantian's heart warmed. She shook her head. It's just that I can't use my strength. If that's the case, that won't do either. I have a 5th grade peak spirit pill here, Su Sheng spirit pill. Hurry up and consume it. Then follow me to the Northern Wilderness region, Tianyang said. Then a pill emitting a powerful aura flew out of his hand and into Tian Chantian's mouth. The pill melted in her mouth, releasing a surge of medicinal power. However, this medicinal power was extremely gentle. Tian Chantian wanted to refuse, but she did not expect Tianyang to do this. Helpless, she could only sit down cross-legged and circulate her true yuan to cultivate. On the other hand, Tianyang's face was ashen as he stood up. He did not expect that in this world, there was actually someone who dared to make a move on his family behind his back. Tianyang rarely joined forces, and he had never created his own force. If he could do it alone, he would do it alone. Only the Soaring Cloud sect, the Tian family, Sky Blue College, and the Star Swordplay sect had close ties with him. In the end, the Tian family, the only one who was related by blood, was in trouble. Even if Tianyang was not the original owner of this body, he could not help but be furious at this moment. After all, he had merged with this body and inherited a trace of the original owner's soul. Now that the Tian family was in trouble, he naturally could not ignore it. Nothing, still nothing. Northern Wilderness region. In the Arctic state, a tall figure stood in the sky. In his hand, the upper-grade artifact that the Northern Wilderness region cultivators regarded as a treasure exploded. The aura of a 5th level Sea of Soul Realm cultivator exploded. I finally found this spatial passage and sensed a trace of a powerful bloodline aura to devour. But in the end, there's nothing. This world actually has restrictions on me. I haven't reached the Demon Venerable realm yet, and I still can't go out. The man roared furiously as he released his aura. Everyone in the Snow Wind Royal City couldn't help but tremble. This man was too strong. Although he stood thousands of miles above them, there was an incomparable distance between them. In the end, just the release of his aura made them unable to resist and kneel down. Some of the weaker mortals and even body refinement realm cultivators could not withstand this aura and directly fell down, never to stand up again. Why? Why do I have to suffer this when I just inherited the throne? Arctic State, Imperial Palace. The former first prince, the current Arctic State's monarch, roared furiously in his heart. Chapter 743. Umph. Perhaps the descendants of the powerful bloodline have already hidden themselves. That's why I can't find them. After roaring in the sky for a while, the man finally stopped and slowly withdrew his aura. Below, thousands of miles below, in the snow-wind royal city, the cultivators above the clear cheese stage stood up with trembling legs, as if their legs were no longer legs. As for the others, they had already fainted from suffocation. Many of them had even died. All of this was because the man, a cultivator above the 5th level of the Sea of Soul realm, had lost his temper. This was the world of martial arts. The strong could do whatever they wanted, while the weak could only be trampled on. Even if the strong roared from afar, they could kill the weak from thousands of miles away. Damn it, damn it! The monarch of the Snowwind country slowly stood up, roaring in his heart. On the surface, he had to suppress the anger in his heart and pretend to be flattering, frightened, and terrified. He knew that his every word and action was under the surveillance of that terrifying devil. If he showed the slightest bit of dissatisfaction, that devil would directly attack and destroy him. Before the monarch of the Snowwind country could catch his breath, the space in front of him suddenly distorted. In the next moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the monarch of the Snowwind country. Seeing this, the monarch of the Snowwind country's expression changed greatly, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest. This person was the devil who had roared in anger from thousands of miles above. However, at this moment, that devil's expression was indifferent, and he didn't attack to kill the monarch of the Snowwind country. This made the monarch of the Snowwind country let out a sigh of relief. He had only been in office for less than 3 years, and he didn't want to die so soon. Mortal countries aren't strong, but their population is extremely large. If the descendants of the powerful bloodline really hide, even if I have the strength of the reaching heaven realm, it'll be difficult to find them. Right now, I can barely lock onto the general area of this Snow-something country, but I can't confirm who they are. After all, there are hundreds of millions of human ants in this Snow-something country. The man muttered to himself. Then, his blood-red eyes looked at the monarch of the Snowwind country without any emotion, and he said indifferently, "You, as the monarch of this mortal country, naturally know the people of this country like the back of your hand," said the man. Hearing that, the monarch of the Arctic state was shocked. He knew everything. How could this be? However, facing the man's frightening threat, the monarch of the Snowgale Empire could only brace himself and nod his head. He only hoped that this demon wouldn't give the order to find someone in the vast sea of people based on his senses. If that's the case, has there been any special people in your country? For example, cultivation, alchemy, artifact forging, etc. However, there's no need to talk about those origin transformation realm ants. Those kinds of trash aren't even enough to serve as food for me. The man said indifferently as a blood-red light flashed in his eyes. He had come to this world to devour the powerful bloodline, but he had not expected that this great world would be suppressed and sealed, making it difficult for him to leave. Right now, his only hope of leaving this place was to devour that powerful bloodline and achieve a breakthrough in his strength. Then, he would be able to break through the world barrier and escape. Naturally, the desire for that powerful bloodline surpassed everything else. Even to him, the monarch of the Arctic Empire, who did not have a single shred of cultivation, was nothing more than food that he did not even spare a glance at before. Now, he had no choice but to give the order. Special people? Hearing this, the monarch of the Arctic Empire was stunned. He tried to think for a while, and then his eyes lit up. I know 2 special people. They are very special to our northern wilderness region. They are also the strongest people that have appeared in our Arctic Empire. However, I don't know if they're the people that you're looking for. The monarch of the Arctic Empire flattered. After all, he was only mortal. What he valued the most was still himself. Now that he could sacrifice others to protect himself, why not? "Oh, speak," the man said indifferently. Hearing this, The monarch of the Arctic Empire nodded. He thought to himself, "Those two, don't blame me. I have no choice. For the people of the northern wilderness region, sacrificing the two of you is something that you would be happy to do." With this thought, the monarch of the Arctic Empire no longer had any psychological barriers. He said, "Those two people are from the same family in my Arctic Empire. One is called Tianyang. A few years ago, in less than a year, he broke through to the natal transformation realm from a mortal who could not even awaken his martial soul. He even killed the other emperors of the northern wilderness region. The other one is called Tian Qianqian. Not long after Tianyang left, she showed great talent and was chosen by a powerful sect from the central region to become a disciple. These two people should be at the level 1 Dao fire realm now. They're also the strongest people that have appeared in our Arctic Empire. I don't know if they're the ones that you're looking for." The monarch of the Arctic Empire said, while trembling with fear. This was because the man frowned. "Dao fire realm? This kind of strength is not what I imagined. Even if their bloodline is extremely thin, it shouldn't be like this. However, everything is possible. Since the two of them are from the same family, the possibility of this family having a powerful bloodline is much higher. Lead the way," the man said faintly. The man said lightly. Hearing this, the monarch of the Arctic state nodded and smiled flatteringly. "Yes. Sir, please follow me." At this moment, Tianyang had already used the void-stepping secret technique and rushed towards the northern wilderness region at his maximum speed. Tian Qianqian was kept in the Heaven Pagoda. Tian Qianqian's strength was not enough to withstand Tianyang's extreme speed, so she could only stay in the interspatial bag. However, Tian Qianqian was not having a good time. Tianyang was not having a good time either. The divine wilderness heaven spirit art was circulating crazily, absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi. However, he was moving towards the northern wilderness. The further he went, the thinner the spiritual qi became. Towards the end, Tianyang had to use the divine wilderness heaven spirit art to tear the spiritual qi from the surroundings. If he wanted to move forward, he had to use the true yuan in his endless spirit sea. Fortunately, Tianyang cultivated the divine wilderness heaven spirit art and forged a perfect foundation. He also had the endless spirit sea. Through various wormholes and Tianyang's terrifying speed, he finally crossed the northern wilderness region in just 3 days. However, the closer he got to the northern wilderness region, the more uneasy Tianyang felt. That is, at this moment, Tianyang's nose twitched. He suddenly felt a strange aura. After sensing it carefully, his expression changed. "Blood sea?" "The blood demon tribe's blood sea." Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He increased his speed and officially entered the border of the northern wilderness region. However, the scene in front of him made his pupils shrink. In the past, the northern wilderness region was filled with mountains and rivers and a sea of people. At this moment, it was all replaced by a surging sea of blood. Chapter 744. This is the family that you said had two powerful figures. Looking at the desolate Yangtian city in front of him, the man's face suddenly sank. A horrifying aura that was enough to massacre the entire city was released. The king of Blizzard, who was beside him, suddenly felt as if he was struck by lightning. His face changed drastically, and he hurriedly said, "It's here." However, the people here were impressed by your fame and left one after another. They wanted to see your appearance up close, so they gave up their family businesses. That's why this place is so desolate. The king of Blizzard said. Hearing this, the man sneered, "Don't make it sound so nice. Aren't they just afraid of me, so they ran away? It is a bunch of food. I don't care what they think." However, if the Tian family you're talking about also runs away, the man sneered. Hearing this, the king of Blizzard's face changed greatly, and he hurriedly said, "No, they won't. Yangtian City is the foundation of the Tian family. Even if others run away, the Tian family will never run away. Even if they run away, I will definitely use all my strength to hand the Tian family over to you." Hearing this, the man sneered in disdain. It better be so. Then he stepped into Yangtian City. At this moment, Yangtian City was no longer as prosperous as it was when Tianyang came a few years ago. The shops were closed, the roads were full of fallen leaves, and there was no one around. Most of the houses were empty, and those that did not leave closed their doors. Even if someone came, they did not dare to look. A group of mortals! How dare you spy on me? At this moment, the man suddenly snorted and released his aura. Those children who poked their heads out of curiosity suddenly had their heads crushed by the terrifying aura, and blood spurted out. Seeing this, the king of Blizzard was shocked, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was on the side of the demon. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would be like these ignorant brats, dying under the cold snort of the devil. This is the Tian family. There should be people inside. Soon, the king of Blizzard brought the demon to the Tian family's gate. However, at this moment, the Tian family, the entire place was shrouded in a vast fog. From the outside, it was impossible to see their faces clearly. The formation is still operating. Naturally, there are people inside. However, it's just a smoke screen that can't even be considered formation. I can break it with a single finger. The man laughed disdainfully. Then, he pointed out a finger. A blood-red demonic ray, thinner than a strand of hair, suddenly shot out and disappeared into the clouds. In the next moment, the entire cloud suddenly collapsed. Rumble! With a loud bang, the clouds that shrouded the entire Tian family completely dispersed. The foundation of the array was broken, and the number of people inside was unknown. At this moment, the man's eyes suddenly lit up and revealed a bloodthirsty glow. That's right, this is it. Although the concentration of the bloodline is too low, it is still a bloodline of that level. The man exclaimed in ecstasy. He looked inside the door, where there were vague figures jumping about. Then, he cast a look of approval at the monarch of Snowgale beside him. Not bad. As a human ant, you're pretty good. Therefore, I'll bestow this drop of blood demon origin energy to you. The man laughed wildly. With a point of his finger, a blood-red demonic ray suddenly penetrated the monarch's chest and went into his heart. The monarch's face suddenly twisted. He fell to the ground and spat out mouthfuls of blood. At the same time, his hair rapidly grew longer, and his skin instantly became much darker. After a long while, the monarch of Snowgale stood up again. His eyes had completely turned blood-red. The energy of half true yuan and half demonic qi surged in his body. Now he was far stronger than the Lingyun sect master, Li Lingyun, who had died in the hands of the demon. He had already reached the half-step Dao fire realm. Thank you for your grace of rebirth, my lord. The monarch of Snowgale knelt on the ground and shouted. Hearing this, the man laughed disdainfully. If you follow me, you can achieve much more than this. However, now let's deal with this. What's this, the Tian family? The man said disdainfully and looked inside the mansion. At this time, the people of the Tian family had already gathered. An old man with a long white beard suddenly rushed out of the mansion. Who are you? Why do you want to break the Tian family's formation? The old man looked at the two people in front of him and asked in a deep voice. Hearing this, before the man could speak, the monarch of Snowgale laughed and said, You're the current second elder of the Tian family. Humph, you don't kneel in front of me. Do you want to die? The monarch of Snowgale laughed wantonly. Hearing this, the old man was slightly stunned. He looked at the monarch of Snowgale, whose appearance had changed greatly. Only the outline was similar to before. His face changed greatly. You're the monarch? Yes, it's me. You don't kneel in front of me. The people of the Tian family are indeed extremely arrogant. Give me your life. The monarch of Snowgale laughed and took a step forward. The energy of half true yuan and half demonic qi surged out from his hand and blasted toward the second elder of the Tian family. Bang! The second elder of the Tian family suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body flew backward and smashed heavily on the gate of the Tian family. His bones were broken inch by inch. Black blood kept flowing out from his mouth and nose. The second elder of the Tian family looked at the monarch of Snowgale in disbelief. You actually joined the devil. The next moment, the second elder of the Tian family twisted his neck and was killed by this blow. The second elder of the Tian family was only at the first level of the origin transformation realm. If the monarch of Snowgale had not just obtained the power of the half-step Dao fire realm, he would not have been able to fully control it. The second elder of the Tian family would have died in the hands of the monarch of Snowgale in an instant. Devil? That's the Lord Blood Devil. The monarch of Snowgale laughed sinisterly and then looked at the man. Lord, the people of the Tian family you're looking for are inside. That's right. After this is done, I'll give you some Blood Devil origin energy. The man nodded lightly. His eyes were scarlet and waves of Blood Devil origin energy surged out from his hand. 10,000 corpses blood sea rise. Demonic chi surged out violently. Along with a seal in the man's hand, a huge blood sea condensed on the ground under the man's feet. Then, the blood sea expanded rapidly and quickly swallowed the bones of the second elder of the Tian family. It surged toward the interior of the Tian family. No! Along with a series of screams, the Tian family fell into a dead silence. What did you say? You people are the last bloodline of the Tian family. Snowgale, soaring cloud sect. Tianyang looked at the dozens of people of the Tian family in front of him in disbelief and said. Hearing this, Tianling and the others nodded bitterly and said, If we weren't sent to Soaring Cloud Sect in advance, I'm afraid we would have become a drop of blood in the Devil's Blood Sea. Chapter 745. The Tian family was annihilated. When Tian Chanxian heard the news from Tianling, beside Tianyang, she had just come out of the Tian Yuan Tower. Her face turned pale as she fell to the ground. Fortunately, Tianyang reacted quickly and caught her in time. Otherwise, she would have fainted. Tell me what's going on, Tianyang said with a gloomy face. He did not expect that the Tian family would suffer such a huge change just because he was late by half a day. Tianling didn't say it fully. Let this old man say it. At this moment, an old voice came from the side. Tianyang looked towards the source of the voice and saw an old man walking out from the corner. He was the new Grand Elder that Tianyang had elected after quelling the chaos caused by the Grand Elder. However, at this moment, the new First Elder's condition was obviously extremely bad. The bloodstains on his face hadn't even been wiped off yet. His entire right arm and half of his leg had disappeared. What was even more horrifying was that the fracture wasn't uneven at all. Instead, it was uneven, and the fracture was very smooth. This old man ran out through the family's secret passage. Before I left, my right arm and half a leg were corroded by the demon's blood sea. Fortunately, my cultivation was not destroyed, so I won't die so easily. The Tian family's Grand Elder said. Tianyang's face darkened. Grand Elder, what happened? Hearing this, the Tian family's Great Elder bitterly smiled and said, A month ago, that demon suddenly appeared. No one knows where he first appeared. However, when the demon appeared, the entire northern wilderness region was shrouded in blood clouds. A strange aura was wreaking havoc in the northern wilderness region. At that time, the entire northern wilderness region was in a state of panic. Not long after the blood clouds appeared, the demon made his move. The moment he made his move, he turned the entire snow wilderness into a sea of blood. Then, the sea of blood expanded rapidly and engulfed the Tian Tsang Nation and Sky Moon Nation. The Tian family's big elder's voice trembled, as if he was recalling the doomsday. Even his withered arm was trembling. Then in just 10 days, the Heavenly Wind Nation and the other nations were also annihilated. They became part of the blood sea that covered more than 90% of the entire northern wilderness region. The Tian family's Great Elder roared. The wounds on his right shoulder and leg suddenly burst open, spurting out a large amount of blood. Seeing this, the faces of Tianling and the others changed greatly. Just as they were about to go up and treat him, Tianyang only frowned and waved his hand. A powerful aura leaked out. Circling around the Tian family Great Elder's wound for a moment. Then the wound automatically healed, and flesh even grew out. If it wasn't for the lack of bones, with just a wave of his hand, the Tian family's big elder's right arm and half of his leg could be restored. What kind of method was this? Tian Ling and the others were dumbfounded as they looked at Tian Yang in shock. They originally thought that Tian Qianqian, who had been chosen by the major forces of the central region, was the strongest person in the Tian family. However, looking at it now, this Tian Yang, who rose from the trash, was the real strongest. Continue, Tian Yang said. Our family head skill is amazing. This old man admires you. Many years ago, this old man even attacked you. Seeing his miraculously healed wound, the Tian family's great elder revealed a look of shock. This kind of supernatural power, even a Dao Fire Realm elite couldn't do it. This patriarch, who was not even 20 years old, was actually a supreme expert above the Dao Fire Realm. Sigh, the new generation excels the old. If it wasn't for the appearance of the devil, the Tian family would have prospered. The Tian family's great elder sighed. After the devil used the Blood Sea to devour the entire northern wilderness region, he stopped at the Snowgale Nation and listened to the words of those who escaped from the Snowgale Royal City. That devil seemed to be looking for a powerful bloodline. However, after searching for a long time, he came to our Tian family half a day ago under the lead of the Snowgale Nation's monarch. The monarch of the Snowgale Nation who surrendered to the devil race deserves to die. The Tian family's great elder suddenly opened his eyes wide and roared madly. Hearing this, Tianyang's face changed slightly. Surrendered to the devil race? It seemed that things were different from what he had imagined. He thought that some forces who had a grudge against him couldn't deal with him, so they stabbed him in the back and attacked the northern wilderness region. In the end, it turned out to be a devil race. It seemed like he was a real demon with flesh and blood, alive and kicking. Our family head, I beg you, you must take the remaining bloodline of our Tian family away. You must leave. No matter what, the bloodline of our ancestors can't be broken. The Tian family's great elder cried. Hearing this, Tianyang's body shook and reacted. His eyes were a little dignified. You said that the devil stopped at the Snowgale Nation to search for a powerful bloodline. However, our Tian family doesn't have any bloodline at all. Why did the monarch of the Snowgale Nation come to the Tian family? Tianyang frowned and said. Hearing this, the Tian family's great elder was stunned and then shook his head. No, family head, you left not long after you became the family head, so it's normal that you don't know the secrets of our Tian family bloodline. Although our Tian family bloodline isn't the same as the Tianji Sword Emperor's Tian family 10,000 years ago, it has a longer history than the Tianji Sword Emperor's Tian family. Our Tian family bloodline is passed down from ancient times. Its origin isn't the strongest bloodline in this world, the immortal bloodline. The Tian family's great elder roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's face changed slightly. Immortal bloodline? He had never heard of this bloodline, but from the name, he could tell that this bloodline must be extraordinary. Yes, it's the immortal bloodline. Legend has it that the ancestors of our Tian family had a certain amount of immortal bloodline superpowers and inherited powerful martial arts. Even if they were severely injured, they could recover. However, as time went by, our Tian family bloodline became thinner and thinner. Although we are the direct descendants, today there's not much difference between our bloodline and that of ordinary people. The Tian family's great elder sighed. If the Tian family still had the immortal bloodline, how could they hide in this small blizzard state and be one of the 8 big families that was not much stronger than ordinary people? So it's close to zero? No wonder I didn't feel anything all this time. Tianyang nodded slightly. If so, it was understandable. However, this was the feeling of having a very strong ancestor who didn't leave anything for you. It was a very subtle feeling. So, family head, take our Tian family bloodline away. Take it to the firmament territory, the spiritual martial domain, the central region, or even the southern wilderness. As long as one of our descendants can awaken the immortal bloodline, he can avenge us, the Tian family's great elder said. However, Tianyang shook his head. Remember, Tianyang said faintly. He turned around and faced the endless blood sea in the sky. Our Tian family has never had a bloodline, and we never needed one. Revenge will always depend on the hands of our Tian family. Tell me where the monarch of the Blizzard State is. When I, Tian Yang, return to the northern wilderness region, the first person I will kill is him. Tian Yang shouted coldly. The divine desolate sky spirit technique in his body was operated to the limit, and the aura of LV8C of Soul Realm burst out. He was born with terminated meridians, so he could also rise against the heavens. If he wanted revenge, why would he need the power of bloodline? Hearing this, the Tian family's great elder was stunned. Tian Ling and the others beside him were already boiling with excitement from Tianyang's words. Chapter 746. The Snow Gale Monarch should be in the palace now. After receiving this news, Tianyang no longer hesitated. He rose into the air and charged toward the Snow Gale royal city. Tian Qianqian was left in the Lingyun sect by him. Now, the Lingyun sect was mostly dead. They could only barely occupy the mountain to survive. Tianyang also had deep feelings for the Lingyun sect. Among the friends he made a few years ago in the Lingyun sect, only Yi Zhanling could survive. The others, including Yang Xiong and the others, were all dead. Yi Zhanling was also seriously injured. If Tianyang didn't rush in time to refine a pill to save him, he would also die. Anger. At this moment, he had never felt such anger before. Perhaps it was second only to the end of the martial arts conference when Zi Wang Tian and Zi Tian Wang of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan wanted to take Ling Yuhan away. The Tian family was the place this body was most nostalgic about. It was also the place this body wanted to return to the most before it died. In the end, it was destroyed. The Snow Gale Monarch and the Blood Demon should die. Tianyang's eyes flashed with endless murderous intent. He stepped on the air, and his speed was even faster. Ha ha! Relying on the Blood Demon King is indeed the best choice in my life. In the palace, the Snow Gale Monarch hugged two women. He didn't care about his body that was neither human nor ghost. He forcefully pulled the two trembling women into his arms. The Blood Demon King didn't mind the Snow Gale Monarch using the word Emperor in front of him. In his eyes, Emperor was just a lowly human ant. Therefore, the Snow Gale Monarch could be so unscrupulous. Otherwise, if he angered the Blood Demon King, it wouldn't be a problem for the Snow Gale Monarch to call him a dog. Before, I couldn't cultivate. Dealing with things was not only tiring, but I also had to be troubled by those officials and generals. Now, ha ha ha. In this world, strength is respected. In the face of true strength, the so-called power and influence is nothing more than trash. Yi Tianxiang of the Yi family still dares to be impudent in front of me. Does he really think I'm the crown prince who couldn't cultivate before? If it wasn't for the fact that that guy is still useful, I would have killed him long ago. The monarch of the Arctic state laughed loudly. Then, a pair of large hands covered with black edges and corners lifted up the clothes of the woman beside him with familiarity and attacked that huge asterisk. As for that woman, although she was in great pain from being pierced by the Snow Gale Nation's ruler's hand, she did not dare to utter a single word. She could only allow the Snow Gale Nation's ruler to do whatever he wanted. Monarch of Snow Gale Nation, quickly come out and accept your death. At this moment, a thunderous roar suddenly exploded in the sky. The lower body of the monarch of the Snow Gale Nation that had just hardened instantly shrunk into a ball. After being stunned for a moment, the monarch of the Snow Gale Nation became furious. Courting death, who dares to be so arrogant in front of me? Boom! Before the monarch of the Arctic state could finish his words, the roof above his head suddenly collapsed. The falling debris, without exception, all smashed towards the monarch of the Arctic state. At the same time, a powerful aura blasted the two women away. They were blasted to the edge of the royal city of Snow Gale Nation before they landed safely. Seeing this, the monarch of the Arctic state's face turned cold. He sensed that the newcomer was not friendly. He stretched out his hand, and half vital chi and half demonic chi surged out. Break for me! The monarch of the Arctic state roared. Energy surged out of his hand, and the bricks and stones that were heading towards his head exploded one after another. At this moment, the monarch of the Arctic state moved his body and soared into the sky. He was now a half-step Dao Fire Realm cultivator and could barely fly. Your Tianyang, standing above the palace, the monarch of the Arctic state looked in disbelief at Tianyang, who was standing in the air with an indifferent expression, and roared out loud. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly, and an indifferent light flashed in his eyes. If I remember correctly, you should be the first prince who took out the demonic crystal war puppet a few years ago. Although the first prince back then could not cultivate, he still had a benevolent heart to rule the country. He also cherished his people. It's just that you can fly now. Your master of the demon race treats you pretty well, but now his humanity is gone, and his cultivation is still trash. Tianyang smiled faintly. Time could change many people, and benefits were even more so. Hearing this, the monarch of the Arctic states' face darkened. Tianyang, I admit that you were far stronger than me a few years ago. However, I'm no longer the first prince of the past. With a flip of my hand, I can destroy this royal city of Snowgale Nation. I can also create another royal city of Snowgale Nation with a flip of my hand. A wise man submits to circumstances. Although the demon race is the demon race, as long as it suits my interests, so what if I have to rely on them? The monarch of the Arctic state sneered. Speaking of which, you're just a stray dog from the Tian family. How dare you bark in front of me? Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me, just because you are strong. Low-class, earth-class martial technique, sky-shattering snowstorm palm. The monarch of the Arctic state roared, and the vital energy in his body burst out. Rolling demonic chi surrounded him, and his face, which could barely return to human form, instantly became ferocious. Seeing this, Tianyang shook his head. You're neither human nor ghost. Hearing this, the monarch of the Arctic state was enraged. The energy in his body circulated wildly, and his body disappeared from the spot. A powerful palm print formed. This was the strongest martial technique that had been passed down for countless years in the Arctic state's royal family, sky-shattering snowstorm palm. Legend had it that the first time this palm was used in history, it severely injured the strongest person in the Sky Moon state. The second time it was used, it flattened a famous giant mountain in the northern wilderness region. The monarch of the Arctic state was extremely confident. In his opinion, Tianyang was just a guy who had some success in cultivation, but his real strength was definitely not stronger than his. To be able to break through from trash to the transformed origin stage in such a short period of time was purely due to his good luck. If he were to go out, he would probably still be in the same place after a few years. Die. The monarch of the Arctic state roared, and a blood-red gale whistled out, accompanied by the palm print, and attacked fiercely. This sky-shattering snowstorm palm has become the sky-shattering bloody palm in your hands. I really don't know if the person who created this martial technique should be crying or laughing. Tianyang shook his head and looked pitifully at the monarch of the Arctic state who had twisted himself for the sake of benefits, and became this monarch of the Arctic state. You can go to hell now. In the next moment, Tianyang struck out with his palm. It was light as a feather, as if it did not have any strength. It streaked across the air and did not even cause a ripple in the space. Seeing this, the monarch of the Arctic state laughed wildly. Ha ha ha! You want me to die with this kind of attack? Tianyang, don't tell me you've become stupid after training outside. Before he could finish, the monarch of the Arctic state's wild laughter came to an abrupt end. That light palm print fell, but in the next moment, the entire space turned into an unstoppable giant wall that pressed down on the monarch of the Arctic state. In the next moment, the monarch of the Arctic state's body was crushed by this giant space wall. Chapter 747. The monarch of Blizzard State was dead. Below them, in Blizzard State, countless people looked at the former monarch who had turned into a bloody mist in the sky, and they were all shocked. Now, those who remained in Snow Wind Royal City were either the people at the bottom who couldn't leave or escape, or the aristocratic families and nobles who were unwilling to give up their foundations in Snow-Wind Royal City and still had a glimmer of hope. The ones who were most shocked were the latter. There's actually someone in the northern wilderness region who dares to kill the monarch of Blizzard State. Doesn't this guy know that the monarch of Blizzard State has already surrendered to that devil and become one of his subordinates? In the Yi family, someone looked at Tianyong, who had casually killed the monarch of Blizzard State, in the sky and cried out involuntarily. The battle between Tianyong and the monarch of Blizzard State took place in the sky. Most of the people in Blizzard State were not even in the essence transformation realm, so naturally they could not see it clearly. They only knew that in the battle between Tianyong and the monarch of Blizzard State, Tianyong had killed the monarch of Blizzard State. That guy seems to be Tianyong. That's right. The Tianyong who made our Yi family suffer a great loss a few years ago. On the side, a rich playboy who was still wearing his gorgeous clothes carefully identified him and suddenly cried out in surprise. Back in the Snow Gale Nation, Tianyong had loved to slap the faces of these aristocratic families. Therefore, these playboys all had a deep impression of Tianyong. Now that they saw him, they naturally recognized him immediately. What? You said that's Tianyong? Hearing his grandson's cry, the old man's expression changed. It's him. So that's how it is. It seems that the destruction of the Tian family is true. Tianyong would not sit by and watch the destruction of the Tian family. But I didn't expect him to kill the monarch of Blizzard State as soon as he attacked. This Tianyong can't do anything right. Of all times to come out, he just had to come out now. At this moment, a cold shout came from his side. A tall, middle-aged man walked out and looked up at the Tianyong in the sky. The monarch of the Snow Gale Nation is nothing but a puppet. However, a puppet also represents that devil. If that demon gets angry, the entire northern wilderness region will be buried with him. If we don't make a move, we can still evacuate. But if we do, we might die. This heavenly son deserves to die 1,000 times over. The middle-aged man shouted angrily. He used to be the head of the Yi family, so naturally, he didn't like Tianyong. However, when he heard this, the profligate young master beside him couldn't help but say, "Uncle, if we allow the monarch of the Snow Gale Nation to continue like this, the commoners of the Snow Gale Royal City will die very miserably. So what if it's tragic? How can that group of lowly commoners be mentioned in the same breath as us martial artists?" The head of the Yi family sneered. At this moment, Tianyong seemed to have noticed something and looked towards the Yi family. As this gaze shot over, the aura of the 8th level of Sea of Soul realm suddenly burst out. Wah! The head of the Yi family's expression changed greatly. Before he could utter a complete syllable, he was suppressed by this pressure. His knees went soft, and he directly knelt on the ground. It just so happened that he was facing Tianyong's direction outside the window. The people beside him all looked at the head of the Yi family with a baffled expression, not knowing what he had done. Remember, what can be said and what can't be said. Tianyong's indifferent voice sounded, and then his figure disappeared from where he stood. That oppressive might also slowly spread out. As the pressure dispersed, the head of the Yi family was still kneeling on the ground. Cold sweat seeped out of his back and forehead, condensing into huge beads of sweat and dripping onto the ground. His entire person looked as if he had just been fished out of the water. After a while, the head of the Yi family stood up and looked in the direction of Tianyong's original position. He said with a respectful expression, "I will obey your teachings. Nephew, hurry up and take out our Yi family's food reserves to save those commoners." Hearing this, not only that foppish young master, but also the other members of the Yi family were all dumbfounded. Just like what the Yi family and the others had said, the ruler of the Arctic state was, in fact, just a puppet of the Demon King. The Demon King could create many more puppets like this. Killing the ruler of the Arctic state didn't mean anything. It was just that Tianyong wanted to kill him purely for revenge. 10,000 miles of blood sea, endless resentment. This move of the Blood Demon tribe has really been used to the limit by this old bastard. Tianyong came to the border of the Arctic state, which was also the border of the Blood Sea, and stood still as he muttered to himself. He released his soul energy at the peak of the reaching heaven state and spread it in all directions. Soon, in the vast blood sea, the only life was found by Tianyang. This life released a billowing aura of life that was not much weaker than that of an ordinary reaching heaven state elite. It might even be stronger. Without a doubt, this was the main culprit behind the chaos in the northern wilderness region, the Blood Demon King. Sanguinati, come out, Tianyang said lightly. In the next moment, Sanguinati, who had been cultivating in the Earth Emperor's spiritual herb garden, flew out. Sir, what are your orders? What's the situation here? Sanguinati had just bent down when his expression changed drastically. He looked at the blood sea in front of him and said in shock. Even if he was called Sanguinati, he couldn't create a blood sea that was 10,000 miles long. It wasn't difficult to create a blood sea. All one had to do was kill people. However, to create such a huge blood sea, one had to kill at least 10 billion people. Sanguinati had proven his Tao through killing in his previous life. However, compared to this blood sea, the people he had killed were like ants compared to an elephant. Blood Demon Tribe, Blood Sea, Tianyang said lightly. Hearing this, Sanguinati's expression changed rapidly, revealing a trace of anger. It's actually a demon bastard. Sir, I'll use the almighty blood god technique to send you down, Sanguinati said. Then, a blood-red light with an aura that was different from the blood sea in front of them appeared before the two of them. Then, the two of them plunged into the blood sea and rushed toward the Blood Demon King. In the depths of the blood sea, a man in a black robe sat cross-legged at the bottom of the blood sea. The blood sea around him turned into billowing blood chi and surged into the man's body. The man's eyes lit up. Although most of the blood in this blood sea is the blood of mortals, there's enough of it. I've recovered 80% of the injuries from breaking the world's barrier. Moreover, I found a descendant of the immortal bloodline in this world. Although it's only a little, it's the immortal bloodline after all. The man laughed maniacally. This is only the bloodline of a good-for-nothing clansman. If it's the two more powerful ones, how powerful would they be? Chapter 748. Cruising in the Blood Sea. Tianyang and Sanguinati, under the protection of the Bloodlight, shuttled through the Blood Sea, rapidly approaching the location of the Blood Demon King. This Blood Sea is worthy of being the most powerful magical ability of the Blood Demon clan. Although it is evil, this means of turning the flesh and blood of countless people into energy is really powerful. Tianyang said to himself, even with the light of the 10,000 blood god technique, Tianyang could feel the huge energy contained in this blood sea. Even with the vision of his previous life, the Tianji Sword Emperor, he could not help but be shocked. If the energy of this blood sea was all turned into the power of a single attack, perhaps an entire territory like the Lingwu domain would collapse. Even here, it was enough to make people's hearts palpitate and at the same time generate endless anger. It's just that this blood sea uses human flesh and blood. Using this kind of thing to cultivate is tantamount to eating people. I can't do something like eating people. Tianyang shook his head and said. Then, the power of his soul unfolded to the limit, almost searching for the location of the Blood Demon King. The soul power of the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm, which had always been successful, was greatly restricted in the Blood Sea. It was as if it had fallen into a quagmire and instantly became much more sticky. Originally, the soul scanning range of the Blood Sea was enough to cover the entire Blood Sea. Now, it was at most a radius of 10 miles, but it was still large enough. At this time, in the depths of the Blood Sea, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, who was rapidly devouring and absorbing the majestic energy contained in the Blood Sea to heal his injuries, suddenly opened his eyes, and the surrounding blood sea suddenly fluctuated violently. Someone is here. Someone has entered my sea of blood. Moreover, their strength is not weak. The Blood Demon King, Su Mo, said in shock. His cultivation was at the 5th level of the Heaven Ascension realm. The power of his demon soul was not weak either. As a blood demon, his physical strength could be weak, but the power of his demon soul absolutely could not be weak. Once the power of his demon soul was weak, no matter how strong his cultivation was, it would be in vain. The power of the demon soul determined the size of the blood sea that could be controlled, and the size of the blood sea was related to the other blood demon martial techniques. Therefore, the blood demon clan's demonic soul power was the strongest. However, the blood demon king had just released his demonic soul power to find the specific location of the intruder, but it was directly swallowed by an extremely powerful soul power. His demonic soul power was like a clay ox entering the sea, directly melting into the invader's soul power. Even that part of the blood sea lost contact with him. I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful person in this desolate great world. Blood Demon King Su Mo's eyes flashed, and a bloodthirsty light was released, and his figure disappeared in an instant. People with powerful souls are the best food for my blood demon clan. Whoosh! The moment the blood demon lord moved, Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. The great void sword embryo appeared in his hand, and his strength of soul contracted rapidly. In the depths of his sea of soul, the strength of martial soul burst out. Heaven-ranked martial spirit, heavenly sword. A tyrannical sword light appeared on Tianyang's body, and the great void sword embryo was also attached to the heavenly sword. The powerful strength of martial soul almost cut the surrounding blood sea apart. Tianyang's expression also sank at this moment. The strength of martial soul moved quickly, and a low roar suddenly came out. Martial soul talent, devouring sky. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying devouring force burst out from his body. There were no mountains, rivers, or living creatures here, but there was the blood demon king, Su Mo, who had spent a lot of effort to condense the blood sea. Under the influence of this devouring power, the entire blood sea instantly rioted. What? Blood demon king Su Mo, who was shuttling through the blood sea, suddenly changed his expression, and his figure sped up again. However, at this moment, Tianyang's devouring sky secret technique had completely erupted. The blood sea contained all the blood energy that Blood Demon King Su Mo had devoured. It was also Blood Demon King Su Mo's magical ability, and it contained the source power of Blood Demon King Su Mo. Therefore, Tianyang's devouring not only devoured the demonic energy and blood energy, but also the source power of Blood Demon King Su Mo. Damn it! Blood Demon King Su Mo roared, and his speed accelerated again. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed 3 times. Ha! 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 This blood sea is indeed a blood sea. A huge amount of energy was injected into Tianyang's body and was quickly refined by the divine wilderness heaven spirit technique and the heavenly sword. Tianyang's strength also began to soar wildly. In the past, even if he used all his means, it was difficult to make up for the gap between the peak of the half-step Heaven Ascension realm and the first level of the Heaven Ascension realm. However, this huge gap was not worth mentioning in front of the blood sea, which was even bigger than the gap. Boom! A terrifying loud noise came out, faster and fiercer than any previous use of the Devouring Sky secret technique. Tianyang's cultivation began to soar at a terrifying speed. Peak of the 8th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. 9th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Peak of the 9th level of the Sea of Soul Realm. Half step to the Heavenly Ascension Realm. Half step to the Heavenly Ascension Realm. After reaching this realm, Tianyang suddenly felt a great obstacle, as if it wanted to stop him in this realm. Even the last time he used the Devouring Sky secret technique, it was not like this. It seems that now, I am truly at the limit of the half step to the Heavenly Ascension Realm. Tianyang smiled faintly, and his gaze penetrated the layers of blood sea. The Blood Demon King, who had become furious, roared to the sky, "Break for this Emperor. If it were others, they might be blocked by this obstacle and stagnate at the limit of the half step to the Heavenly Ascension Realm. However, For the Tianji Sword Emperor, who was once the strongest in the continent, this obstacle, it could be broken with a wave of his hand. Boom! A loud noise that shook heaven and earth suddenly came out, and layers of thunderclouds suddenly appeared in the sky. However, because Tianyang had only used the secret technique, he had temporarily broken through. This thundercloud, which covered almost half of the continent, only stayed above Tianyang's head for a few minutes before dissipating. Most people did not even feel the appearance of this thundercloud. However, Tianyang's cultivation, at this moment, broke through the obstacle and reached the peak of the Heavenly Ascension realm LV1. Nearly 2/3 of the energy of the entire Blood Sea was almost completely devoured by Tianyang. An extremely furious roar sounded from a distance, and a blood-red figure rushed out of the Blood Sea, charging toward Tianyang. This is my blood demon origin. Boy, I'm going to kill you. Blood Demon King Su Mo roared, his hands forming a seal, and a torrential demonic energy condensed. The Blood Sea under his feet seemed to be affected by this seal and began to tremble like a tsunami. Blood Sky Emperor Breaking Fist. Blood Demon King Su Mo roared angrily, and the power of the Blood Sea condensed. A huge fist print broke through the void and rushed toward Tianyang. Aura. Chapter 749. Sky Blood Emperor Shattering Fist. The power of the Blood Sea surged out. This fist print of the peak of Heaven Ascension Realm's 5th layer seemed capable of shattering the entire region. Heaven Ascension Realm stood at the pinnacle of the continent, and the peak of Heaven Ascension Realm's 5th layer was much stronger than the average Heaven Ascension Realm. If it was in the central region, it might not have such destructive power. However, this was the northern wilderness region. The northernmost region of the continent was bitterly cold, and also one of the places with the thinnest spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Peak of Heaven Ascension Realm's 5th layer? That's much stronger than a 5th layer sea of Soul Realm's 5th layer. A strange glint flashed past Tianyang's eyes as he muttered to himself. The great void sword embryo in his hand flashed, and the true yuan of a peak Heaven Ascension Realm's 1st layer gushed out. A resplendent sword light instantly slashed out. Sky Extreme Sword Technique, 4th Sword Firmament. Tianyang roared, and his true yuan surged rapidly. Seeing this, Blood Demon King Su Mo's expression changed as he looked at the sword. He originally thought that the person in front of him, even if he had devoured so much Blood Sea's power, would at most have the strength of a peak Heaven Ascension Realm's 1st layer, and that he could easily kill him. However, his cultivation was indeed at the peak Heaven Ascension Realm's 1st layer. However, the strength of this sword, compared to a peak Heaven Ascension Realm's 1st layer, it was much stronger. And die for me. Blood Demon King Su Mo snorted coldly, and demonic chi gushed out violently. The huge blood-red fist print also became even brighter. Slash! Tianyang's cold roar rang out, and in the next instant, the firmament sword and the sky Blood Emperor shattering fist fiercely collided. Rumble! The space between heaven and earth shattered countless times, and the Blood Sea that covered the entire northern wilderness region trembled violently. Extremely terrifying shockwaves were released, setting off layer after layer of stormy waves on the Blood Sea. Countless miles away, in the Arctic country, the earth trembled. It was merely a collision between two people, but it caused a huge earthquake, as if the heavens and earth were enraged. This is the demon's battle. In the soaring cloud sect, Tian Qianqian's expression changed as she felt the trembling earth beneath her feet. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. They looked at Tian Qianqian in disbelief. The demon was fighting? Who in the northern wilderness region could fight against that demon? Could it be the head of the Tianyang family? The Tian family's great elder beside him exclaimed. In other realms, the people who had not seen the Blood Demon King Blood Sea and were still living and working in peace changed their expressions. The aftermath was not only targeted at the Arctic nation. Without the mountains of the northern wilderness region as a barrier, The surrounding realms were hit even harder by the shockwaves. What level of cultivators are fighting? As the lord of a region, with a cultivation at the second level of the Tao Fire realm, I actually couldn't withstand it. High up in the sky, a yellow-robed old man with white hair and beard looked in disbelief in the direction of the aftershock. They're definitely at the Sea of Souls realm, or even stronger than that. Two almighty warriors are fighting. No, I have to run. The yellow-robed old man's expression changed drastically as he turned around. However, another aftershock came, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was severely injured. The yellow-robed old man was tens of millions of miles away from the place where Tianyang and the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, were fighting. The Blood Sea. In just a few minutes, Tianyang and the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, had fought countless rounds. Tianyang wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, in front of him. He sneered, as expected of a real demon king. You have both your physical body and demon soul, and you're still alive and kicking. I'm afraid that even the demon emperor back then was not as strong as you. Tianyang laughed. Hearing this, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, sneered. Demon emperor? Human ants are indeed human ants. My demon emperor is such a great existence. How about he let you meet him and let you live? Even if your strength is strong enough, in front of the demon emperor, you are just an ant that could be killed with one finger. The Blood Demon King, Su Mo, laughed. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. Tell me your name. I don't kill nameless people. Hearing this, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, who was laughing just now, suddenly looked gloomy. He glared at Tianyang, showing anger. Nameless people? This lowly human ant, who is only fit to lick the boots of his demon race, dared to mock him as a nameless person. I am the Blood Demon King, Su Mo. Boy, tell me your name too. The Blood Demon King, Su Mo, roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Su Mo, the Demon Kings and Demon Emperor he had seen before all started with the word "een," but the only Blood Demon King he had seen started with the word "su." It seemed that among the demons, even if they were of the same race, there were family divisions. I am the Tianji Sword Emperor, Tianyang. Tianyang laughed. The next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared. Using the myriad movement technique, he held the Great Void Sword Embryo in his hand and rushed out. Tianji Sword Technique, stepping on the world. With one sword, the world collapsed, and everything was destroyed. Seeing this, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, who was stunned just now, suddenly changed his expression. The power of the Blood Sea was drawn out and turned into a huge fist print, attacking Tianyang. Blood Demon Sky, shaking fist. Boom! The Great Void Sword Embryo and the fist print collided fiercely. The terrifying sword light came out and instantly cut the fist into pieces. The next moment, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo's furious roar suddenly came. You are Tianyang, the descendant of the immortal bloodline, Tianyang. Why hasn't your bloodline awakened? You are still at the mortal level. The Blood Demon King, Su Mo, roared wildly, his whole person almost going berserk. He did not make a move and did not destroy the Blizzard State. Wasn't it to attract the two people who were suspected to have awakened their bloodlines and turn them into blood food? For this reason, the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, even gave up his own healing time in order to capture and kill Tianyang as soon as possible and turn him into blood food. The awakened immortal bloodline was the most precious blood food for his Blood Demon clan. Although the people of the Tian family had bloodlines in their bodies, they were too weak. For the Blood Demon King, Su Mo, who was eager to devour powerful bloodlines to strengthen himself, it was useless. However, why? You haven't awakened your bloodline yet. The Blood Demon King, Su Mo, roared wildly. This young man was the most promising person in the Tian family to awaken the immortal bloodline. But what was the result? In the end, he was still immortal with nothing. Hateful human ant, how dare you deceive this king? Su Mo was completely furious. The billowing blood sea suddenly rose into the air. The blood sea, with a radius of tens of thousands of miles, suddenly covered the sky and the sun. Seeing this, Tianyang also reacted instantly and sneered. I have never had any bloodline in my rise. Damn guy. Hearing this, the blood demon king, Su Mo, became even more furious. The blood sea suddenly turned into a human figure. Blood demon magical power. Ancient blood seal. Chapter 750. Ancient blood seal. When he heard these words, Tianyang, who had been maintaining a calm expression, finally could not help but change his expression. If the ancient blood seal dared to be called ancient, then it was definitely extraordinary. The ancient era was a mysterious era. Not only was it the era of the Tianshao Great World, but it was even older than the ancient era. At that time, even the Tianshao Great World had not been born yet. Compared to the other worlds, the Tianshao Great World was just a new world. Naturally, there were no archaic-level martial arts techniques. However, although there were none, Tianyang had heard of it. The ancient blood seal was the supreme magical power of the Blood Demon clan. Even a blood demon at the level of the Blood Demon King could not completely master the ancient blood seal. The true ancient blood seal refined heaven and earth into blood and created the universe as a seal. It was the supreme magical power of the Blood Demon clan. However, even a trace of the power of the ancient blood seal is extremely terrifying. Tianyang's face suddenly darkened. In the depths of his soul sea, the soul origin of the peak of the ascending heaven realm was stirring. Ha ha! Human ants, you didn't expect this, did you? I actually possess the primordial blood wilderness seal. The consequence of deceiving me is to be crushed to pieces by my ancient blood seal. Blood Demon King Su Mo laughed loudly. A layer of strange but incomparably powerful blood-red light enveloped him. Even though Sanguinati had secretly attacked countless times, it was difficult to break through. There's also a little ant of the ascending heaven realm level 3. But it doesn't matter. Once the ancient blood seal appears, this entire realm will collapse. Although it will consume 80% of my demon's soul origin, as long as I can kill you all, it's worth it. Hearing this, Sanguinati's face suddenly turned ashen, and his figure appeared. He had just activated the 10,000 Blood God technique and secretly attacked countless times, but he could not break through Su Mo's defense. He could not even shake it a little. D***, what is this tortoise shell? Sanguinati roared, the blood sword in his hand trembling. Hearing this, Tianyang fell silent. To open or not to open? Once activated, the primordial blood seal would not be able to block Tianyang's sword, even if it was a holy martial saint. However, there was no doubt about it. Tianyang had already opened it once when he killed his way up the heavenly Een Mountain. Now that he had opened it again, it would definitely bring unimaginable damage to this body. Soon, it would be the 1-year agreement. In less than a year, the Dragon Emperor's mausoleum would be opened. There was also the threat of the Demon Emperor, who would make a comeback. However, the threat of Blood Demon King Su Mo in front of him was even more imminent. Ha ha ha! Don't even think about using any methods to deal with the primordial blood seal. In this world, only those at the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm are capable of shattering my primordial blood seal. However, the two of you aren't even at the 5th level of the Heaven Ascension stage. Just wait for your deaths. An entire realm will be buried with you. That's enough for you. Blood Demon King Su Mo laughed wantonly. In the sky, the huge primordial blood seal was gradually taking shape. An atmosphere of despair appeared in Sanguinati's heart. However, when he heard Blood Demon King Su Mo's words, Tianyang's eyes suddenly lit up. This world, it's naturally impossible for me to break the primordial blood seal through the means of this world. However, what if it comes from another world? Tianyang roared in his heart, as if the blockage in his heart had been opened. In his soul sea, another powerful force that was not inferior to the soul source of the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm appeared. It was the power of Shuntian Wuzuan, which did not belong to this world. There is also the first style of the Holy Martial Saint level martial arts technique, 10,000 swords returned to origin. Ha ha, Suemo, thank you very much. If it weren't for your words, I wouldn't have thought that I had these trump cards. Tianyang suddenly laughed, and the light on the great void sword embryo in his hand became brighter and brighter. Hearing this, Sanguinati and Blood Demon King Su Mo looked over doubtfully. Blood Demon King Su Mo sneered. Humph, it's just the crazy words of a loser. Come out. Primordial Blood Seal. Blood Demon King Su Mo roared. The next moment, rumble. Heaven and earth shattered, and the power of the sea of blood condensed, along with 80% of Blood Demon King Su Mo's origin power. Blood Demon King Su Mo's figure suddenly trembled, and his face became extremely pale. At this moment, the primordial blood seal was completely formed. The monstrous blood energy seemed to be able to wreak havoc on the entire continent. The true power of a demon king that had not been seen in this world for 10,000 years had erupted. Ants die for me. Blood Demon King Su Mo laughed loudly and controlled the primordial blood seal to kill Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang raised his head and showed a bright smile. The power of Shuntian Wuzuan. Tianyang roared violently, and suddenly the white robe on his body fluttered without wind, and his black hair rose to the sky. The power belonging to the peak of Wuzun realm was rapidly absorbed and refined by Tianyang. Back then, Tianyang, with the cultivation of a half-step sea of Soul Realm, activated the power of Shuntian Wuzuan. Without even absorbing 1/3 of it, he could cross an entire realm and kill venerable Ironbone. Now, Tianyang's strength had long surpassed venerable Ironbone's. This power of Shuntian Wuzuan could also be completely absorbed and refined. His cultivation suddenly changed from the peak of the first level of the Heavenly Ascension Realm to the peak of the Heavenly Ascension Realm. What? Blood Demon King Su Mo's face changed drastically. He looked incredulously at Tianyang, whose strength had skyrocketed in the blink of an eye. How is this possible? Nothing is impossible. Holy martial art. 10,000 swords returned to origin. Tianyang laughed loudly, and the great void sword embryo in his hand shone with an unprecedented light that defied the heavens. He slashed out at the ancient blood seal condensed by Su Mo. Suddenly, Blizzard State, Northern Wilderness Region, Beihan Region, Beiqian Region, and all the territories in the north of the continent. Lingwu Region, Firmament Territory, and all the territories in the north of the Central Region. Central Region, Wasteland Demon Region, and all the territories in the Heaven Continent. East Sea, South Sea, the entire Tian Shao Great World. All the swords, one after another, emitted a crisp sword sound, and suddenly soared into the sky without anyone's control. Tianyang's figure also rose slowly, and the strongest aura of the continent at the peak of the Heavenly Ascension realm erupted. He met the eyes of the pale-faced blood demon king Su Mo sword come. Tianyang roared. At this moment, the great void sword embryo, which had the power of a semi-sacred weapon, appeared in his hand. 10,000 swords returned to origin break. He slashed out with the sword. 3,000 regions, 4 great seas, and the entire heaven continent. 10,000 swords cried in unison. The extreme realm of swordsmanship that Tianyang had broken through in his previous life, which he had yet to fully comprehend, was perfectly displayed in this sword. This was the swordsmanship of the Sage Realm. Boom! The 10,000 swords returned to origin slashed out, and the ancient blood seal was instantly shattered. Blood Demon King Su Mo, in an extremely horrified situation, died completely.